בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים. We're back here, Baruch Hashem, doing the Stump the Rabbi series. We had an event yesterday, Baruch Hashem, for anyone that watched the video we posted this morning as a part of the event, Baruch Hashem. And Baruch Hashem, we had the merit to have Rabbi Yaron Reuven, Shiur, with us, and one of the most amazing people I've ever met. Also, not surprisingly, but amazingly, one of the descendants of both the Ben Ish Chai and Arav Kaduri, Aleim Shalom. And if you see the picture we have in our house of the Ben Ish Chai, and you look at Rav Zev, it's exactly the same thing. So the only difference is the length of the beard. But Baruch Hashem, always great to see him, always great to see good people. Got to see some faces I haven't seen in a while, Baruch Hashem. So with that being said, we have our Shiur. The Shiur tonight is going to be a different type of Shiur, a very controversial Shiur. Not that controversy is something that we're new to, but the whole point of the Shiur is going to be to stimulate your mind and make us realize that without Daat Torah, we simply know nothing. Because our mind naturally steers the wrong direction. And not everybody has Daat Torah, even if they know a lot of Torah. And today's Shiur will be one of those proofs. Tonight's Shiur will be for a Refuah Shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris Bat Jora, Orit Bat Ilana, Sarah Bat Sausan. Also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, and Louis ben Marsha. Shaul ben Farzane, Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gal ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Amir ben Shahin, and all of Am Yisrael, B'ezrat Hashem, will have a Atzlacha Rabbah, and all the righteous Noahides will have an Atzlacha Rabbah in everything that they do, especially in their Avodat Hashem. Brief update on some of the things that are going on. We have, Baruch Hashem, lots and lots of boxes. If you're seeing boxes in the background and packaging stuff, that's because, Baruch Hashem, the Kiruv store is pumping out boxes like it's free. and that's the inside joke in our house, that there's so many boxes, it's like it's free, when obviously it is free. And Baruch Hashem, it's free. So if you haven't ordered some copies of my new book, or some of the CDs, or some of the other things, go to the Kiruv store, kiruvstore.org. Get some stuff to give out in your community. We've run out of some of the products we have. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get more soon. My personal book, we only have a few copies left. Maybe 100 or less copies left. So that's almost done. Just letting you guys know, if the Facebook goes down again, I'm not going to. If the Facebook goes down again, I'm not going to redo it again, because then I'll be in the middle of the lecture. So if you want to see the lecture live, you'll have to download the app, or go to bh.live, and you'll be able to watch the lecture live. The reason why I did the whole Facebook Live again now is because we haven't officially started the lecture, so I'm not in the middle of an idea. But to do this whole thing I just did, it took 5 minutes, while I'm in the middle of speaking, is not going to happen. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so like I said, the Kiruv store, Baruch Hashem, is going good. We have, B'ezrat Hashem, good news coming next week. We're getting our orders of Rabbi Ephraim's new book. Some of you guys that have reserved your copies, B'ezrat Hashem, will get them over the next couple of weeks or sooner. So that's one. We have actually a couple of new products that will be added to the store next week. That's one. Second thing, this whole disaster with the Ephraim Goldberg evil empire is continuing. We're fighting tooth and nail. We're trying to do whatever we can. A little bit of a different strategy than we used in the past. We learned from our experience. And tomorrow night we're going to be on a B'ezrat Hashem is stay tuned, but it's almost definite that we'll be on a radio show tomorrow night, and B'ezrat Hashem you'll be able to tune in live. When I get the information, I'll send it out. You'll have it. We'll be interviewed discussing this particular situation with Ephraim Goldberg and the whole missionary situation. So that's that. Also, other things are in the works, but I'd rather talk about them once I have them in my hand, rather than waiting for them.
Many people did not believe what I said about 5 years ago when I warned the Boca Raton synagogue by first approaching their leadership, led by a heretic named Ephraim Goldberg. You've obviously seen this disaster that's happening at Boca Raton synagogue right now, where a very big mistake is being made by the leaders to bring the #1 Catholic missionary in the world. If you just type in his name, Matthew Kelly, you'll immediately find his whole life mission is to make everyone Catholic. Make everyone follow what the Torah says is 100% Avodah Zarah. Every single house in the Boca Raton synagogue neighborhood got a missionary letter with a DVD in it. The very same thing is happening right now. You continue allowing Ephraim Goldberg and the rest of his staff to stay on their job. You are supporting idol worship. They're bringing a missionary again. Ribono shel olam. What do you mean they're bringing a missionary again? On January 11th, the Boca Raton synagogue is hosting what they're calling South Florida Night to celebrate Israel. You can find this on their website, brsonline.org. You have 3 keynote speakers. Surely Ephraim Goldberg has to have a stage. It's his place after all. They're going to give some honor to the keynote speaker, the ambassador, David Freeman, which was a former U.S. ambassador to Israel. So far, not necessarily a problem. I wouldn't necessarily highlight a ambassador in my shul, but you want to do it by all means. We don't have a problem so far. Where do we have a problem? When the other keynote speaker, when the other partner in the whole event is a person that lives in my backyard here. Person by the name of Pastor Mario Bramnick, President, Latino Coalition to Israel. Pastor Mario Bramnick, for all intents and purposes, seems like a very nice guy. He probably is a nice guy. But unfortunately, to him and to us, his beliefs and his life's work is problematic according to our Torah. I'm not saying it in a nice way. Why? Mario Bramnick, he is the president of the Hispanic Israel Leadership Coalition. He was a speaker for the Israeli American Council. He's very politically connected. He does a lot of work to connect himself to the land of Israel. But aside from that, his main gig is that he's a pastor. And Pastor Bramnick has a church. And this church is called New Wine Ministries. And New Wine Ministries does not confuse anybody by making them think that they are your simple Catholic church. Rather, no. They say on their own website, in the welcome page, we are a church with a divine design to advance the kingdom of God in our neighborhood, our county, our nation, and the nation of Israel. We are a church with a passion to evangelize, train, and equip believers to attain their purposes and call of God in their lives. Pastor Bramnick is a missionary, a very ambitious missionary that has his primary focus on the Jewish people, just like their other evangelical Christians have. One of their main core beliefs is to evangelize the Jewish people to believe in Jesus. This is the reason why their promotion, their events, their teachings have become much more similar, or at least in looks, to Judaism than they were in the previous generation. Perhaps one example on Pastor Bramnick's website is that he's about to have a Hanukkah Christmas celebration. Now, if you ask his great-grandfather, did his church celebrate a Hanukkah Christmas celebration? I assure you, the answer would be no. If you look up the Christian books from 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 years ago, and you ask any of the pastors and the priests and the popes and whoever else, did you have a Hanukkah Christmas event? It's like, what do you mean? Like a Hanukkah event to kill Jews? That's what you're calling Hanukkah, like a joke? No, like a Hanukkah, like you're celebrating Hanukkah, but also Christmas, like the unification of the Jews and the Christians. They'll look at you like, what do you mean? Why? Why would there be a unification of the Jews and the Christians? This is a relatively new invention. Now you would think, oh, this is very nice. Unity between the Christians and the Jews should be good. We live in America after all. We live in England. We live in Australia. We live in mostly we live in foreign lands. Shouldn't there be some type of friendship? Sure, friendship, yes. Unity, no. Now, Pastor Bramnick, for his beliefs, he's doing good. In fact, I would love to have Pastor Bramnick on our team. Because if we can find rabbis that believe in the one and only God and the one and only Torah and forsake the New Testament, the Quran, and all of the other teachings, if I could have people as passionate as Pastor Bramnick, I bet you within a few years Mashiach's coming. Why? Because passion like this, dedication like this is very hard to find. But what do we have? We have Ephraim Goldberg that brings the spiritual enemies into our own backyards. People that their job is to convert our people to their beliefs. That's who we have on our team, so-called team. Now, Pastor Bramnick is doing good for him, bad for us though. The problem is, Rabotai Karim, is that the idolatrous nations are preaching their false beliefs as if they're true. While many of the rabbis that have the truth are preaching it like it's false because they're either scared to tell the truth or they're simply so confused by money they forgot what the truth even looks like.
We have a church, I pastor a church in the Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area. And years ago, we would always have a night to honor Israel or, some special event. And maybe 7 years ago, we partnered with the Jewish Federation locally to do a joint Christian-Jewish event combating anti-Semitism. And that was really the start of our journey. I invited then Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon, Robert Stearns, our Congress people. We had pastors, rabbis. Our first event, I think we had about 2,000 people at a university assembly, and it was amazing. And it was from there that we had a major event, and then the next day we had a pastor-rabbi symposium of about 100 pastors and rabbis. We, from there, I felt was birthed several initiatives that then went literally global since then. We started with South Florida because we have a lot of Christians, Hispanics, and Jewish people. And my main thing is just let's bring everybody together and let's work together. And out of that was birthed our pro-Israel agenda, which now is through Latino Coalition for Israel, as well as a pastor rabbi Torah studies. So we started meeting on that every month, 1 month in a church, 1 month in a synagogue, really for the most part talking on areas of commonality, on how much we do agree on instead of differences and so forth, and how we can build and learn from each other's community and establish a great relationship. It was a small group, about 15, still meets to this day. I have delegated the leadership of that. And as you know, we actually did 2 major pastor rabbi symposiums on theological dialogue, with the last one with 200 people. And we had, different denominations, Christian denominations, but we also had rabbis from Orthodox, conservative, Reform backgrounds together, studying the Torah together, and it was pretty amazing.
And unfortunately, Rabotai, we have a serious problem. Why do we have a serious problem? Because Pastor Bremnick is about to come to Boca Raton Synagogue, give a nice speech, become friends with some people in the community. Says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that one who kills a body here in this world is much less of a sinner than one who causes another Jew to sin, because he is killing both his body and his soul. Even if the murderer was murdering bodies for 210 years, and the one that's murdering a soul is murdering it after a single speech that could take 5 minutes, that person that caused the person to sin after giving him a speech for 5 minutes, or allowing someone to speak heretical thoughts, heretical ideas, idolatrous beliefs, that person is a much greater sinner, and thereby worse than even Pharaoh.
What else? Lastly, we have a couple of days left to the cyclical year according to the Gregorian calendar for people that use their donations not only for merits and mitzvot, but also for tax purposes. This is the time where to donate. But we also have a very big campaign that we're trying to make it big. Unfortunately, a few people have not been able to donate. But this is the time to donate. You go to bhyeshiva.com, and that's the campaign to donate for. Okay, with that being said, we have Parashat Va'era. Parashat Va'era is a continuation of what we started last week, the exodus of Am Yisrael from Egypt. Of course, Moshe Rabbeinu is someone that we can talk about from the beginning of the world to the end and still not have enough to say about him. He's just an extraordinary person that we really don't have a concept of who Moshe Rabbeinu was. Needless to say, we don't have any concept of who our sages were. But for whatever reason or another, it's a view today that people that perhaps know how to speak, maybe even mention a few sources from time to time, give some good stories, automatically are compared to some of the greatest sages that we've had, either in this generation or previous generation, people that have never even completed the Shas or the Rambam or really anything of significance, could easily find themselves debating the early sages, and quoting things and misquoting things in the name of the Rambam and the Ramban and the Baalei Tosfot and Rashi, and simply just doubting the sages or comparing the sages to themselves. And really, one of the things we're going to learn today, B'ezrat Hashem, is how the ideal position for a person to be mentally is to understand that in comparison to Gdolei Ador, whether those Gdolei Ador are the current ones that we have in the world or of the previous generation, needless to say of 500 years ago and 1,000 years ago and 2,000 years ago, or, we talk about our forefathers. Regardless of where you go, even if you're talking about the Gdolei Ador of today, the ideal position for a person to be in as far as mentally is to understand that they are a nothing. They are nothing. They don't know anything in comparison to them, even if you know a lot. Even if you know a lot, in comparison to the sages, we know nothing. And the reason why is because they think differently. And today, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll try to show an example of that in a real life situation that's happening in the world today. The whole parasha about Chaim Walder and the accusations, the judgment, the suicide that followed, and of course the conclusions that so many have been in a hurry to discuss. And we'll see that if we look at things based on the Daat Torah, based on the opinion of the Torah, they're not quite so conclusive. In fact, you may be surprised that the overwhelming majority of the public opinions that have been discussed about this case are outright wrong, according to the Torah. Even if they've come from good people, smart people, people that know a lot of Torah, that have been learning Torah for a long time, and you'll see that according to the actual Torah itself, they're wrong, simply wrong. And it's again, it's not necessarily an insult on anybody. This is how the Torah works. This is part of it. Now, of course, everything that we see in the world today is always connected to the weekly parasha. And we see that in Parashat Va'era, we have several places where the Torah talks about fear of heaven. One time, I remember learning this from Rav Yosef Mizrahi Shichyeh, where years ago I heard this Shiur where he said one of the things that we learn from the Torah is not just the stories, not just the laws, but also the language of Hebrew. And we learn, everything in the holy language. And one of the things we learn is that everything has an opposite except Yirat Shamayim. Meaning that if you have, tall, short, dark, light, fat, skinny, all these different things that every language has. But when it comes to the issue of fear of heaven, if you ask somebody what's the opposite of fear of heaven, they'll tell you what I myself thought and most people think. The opposite of fear of heaven is no fear of heaven, lack of fear of heaven. But that's actually wrong. Why is it wrong? Because we see in this Parashat Va'era, that in the plague of hail, it says that the Moshe Rabbeinu gave the warning to the Egyptians, and Ayare dvar Adonai me'avdei Paro, enis et avadav ve'et mikneu el habatim, ve'asher lo sam libo el dvar Adonai ve'ya'azov et avadav ve'et mikneu basadeh. It says that whoever among the servants of Paro feared the word of Hashem, chased his servants and his livestock to the houses. And whoever did not take the word of Hashem to heart, left his servants and livestock in the field. So we see here that, this is in essence supposed to be a statement where it's supposed to say both sides. So it says a person that had fear of Hashem, listened to what Moshe Rabbeinu, warned about in regards to the hail coming, and went inside, because Moshe Rabbeinu specifically warned, whoever is going to be outside is going to die from the Egyptians. Whoever is going to be outside from the Egyptians will die during this plague. whether it's animal, man, whoever it is. So those that feared after already getting hit, 6 times, those that feared heaven by now, went inside. They figured, why do I need to be outside? His God has been killing us already. So I'm going to go inside. They took their animals, they took their servants, and they went inside. But then it says, and those that did not take the word of Hashem to heart stayed in the field. Wait a minute, shouldn't it say those that didn't fear the word of God? No. Why? Because there is no such thing. There is no such thing as not fearing God. Because anyone that knows what God is immediately fears him. That's what we'll learn in the Parashat Beshalach, where it says that Am Yisrael saw the Egyptians dead, and then they saw the hand of God and how God did these great things, and immediately it says they feared and they believed in Hashem. Meaning that as soon as they recognized the significance of Hashem, immediately they feared Him, and then they had emunah in Hashem. Meaning that emunah cannot come before fearing Hashem, because you cannot believe in Hashem, you cannot have emunah in Hashem without understanding what He is to a certain extent. And as soon as a person has any concept of what Hashem is, immediately they fear Him, because they understand that this is not your body. This is someone that's in control of everything, including you, including the cells in your body, including whether you'll succeed, whether you'll live, whether you'll die, whether you'll have kids, everything. And anyone that's normal and pays attention is going to be afraid. Hence the reason why there is no such thing as not fearing God. Literally, what there is someone that doesn't take things to heart. Lo sam lev. What does it mean, lo sam lev? Simply, the only reason why he doesn't fear God is because he's not paying attention to the details of, God being in the creation. He's blaming nature for it. He's blaming scientific knowledge for it. He's blaming all types of things for what God actually does. So therefore, he doesn't think that God in this is connected. Hence the reason why many times people will say silly things like, me and God understand each other. He accepts me, I accept him, but even though I don't fulfill the mitzvot, and they feel fine with themselves. They think that they have this personalized relationship with God, and God is simply going to punish everybody else except them. Even though they've never read the Torah itself, or they just simply decide to do the opposite of the Torah, but God understands their limitations. These are all ridiculous things that nonetheless happen every single day because people don't pay attention. They don't take the word of God to heart. So this is one of the places where we see the teachings of how significant, how important fear of heaven is, where in essence it's either having fear of heaven or losing a person's life. Another interesting thing is that in the end of the Parashat Va'era, Paro says something very interesting. He says, "Chatati apam Adonai atzadik ve'ani ve'ami hareshaim." That Paro says that I'm the one that sinned against God. God is the righteous, and me and my nation are wicked. What's the response that Moshe Rabbeinu tells him? He says, "Ve'ata ve'avadecha yadati ki terem tiraun mipnei Adonai Elohim." He says to him that and as for you and your servants, I know that you're not yet afraid of Hashem our God. You're not afraid. He just said he's wicked. He just said that he made a sin, but Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm not buying this bluff. I know you're still not afraid of God. Now, the question is Moshe Rabbeinu trying to make Paro one of the Avrechim in his Kolel? Is Moshe Rabbeinu trying to convert Paro to Judaism? What does he care if Paro is afraid of God? Why does he even care if he's afraid of God? Say, listen, just free us and go live your life, we'll live our life. What do you care about freeing? What do you care about fear of God? The key to understand here is that Chazal teach us that a person that's not afraid of God is always a potential murderer at all times. A person that does not have Yirat Shamayim, you're not allowed to be in a room alone with them. Can't trust them. Why? They can potentially murder you. Which is the reason why
there are all types of different rules of how to treat certain people, deal with certain people, stay away from certain people. And the more Torah a person learns, the more they understand that these rules are literally for your own life's sake, for your own protection. Now, you see that the parasha, like the rest of the Torah, is constantly teaching the same foundational principle, the same foundational rule, the same foundational mitzvah, which is the fourth mitzvah on the list of mitzvot that the Rambam lists out of the 613 mitzvot, which is fearing God. It's constantly teaching. But yet you have endless amount of people ask the same question week in, week out. Why are all of your lectures scary? Why can't you just teach wonderful things like God loves us? Why can't you just talk nicely like all the other rabbis? The answer is very simple, and it's always the same. Anyone that does not teach you about fearing God is not teaching you Torah. They're teaching you something that is potentially part of Torah, potentially similar to Torah, potentially the opposite of Torah. But Torah, it's not. Why? Because as you can see, we're not structuring the shiurim. I don't prepare a shiur. I don't have a script that I'm reading. I have some books in front of me. I have some things that I want to say, but I don't have like an actual script. I don't even have an idea of what I'm going to say beforehand. Simply put, every place in the Torah that you look, whether it's the Gemara, or the Shulchan Aruch, or the Rambam, or the Chumash, or the rest of the Tanakh, or the Sifrei Chasidut, Sifrei Musar, anything and everything you look at, if you actually read what's being said, there's constant teachings that are scary. Why? Because life is scary. In fact, even without the Torah, anyone that has eyes, ears, and is simply a person that operates in the world realizes that life is scary. Reality is scary. But the good news is that once you learn about what to be scared of, then you know what not to do. Then you know how to stay away from certain things. But if you simply live in some la-la land, ignoring the things that are not making you feel all gooey inside, like a Care Bear or something, you're avoiding anything that distorts your illusion, then what ends up happening is that you become the most vulnerable people in the world. Hence the reason why you have multiple keilot that consider themselves religious, yet have invited Christian missionaries into their community. And when you tell them this is wrong, they look at you like you have 5 heads. Like, why is this wrong? Why can't we just be friends with our Christian brothers? It's like saying, why can't we be best friends with Hitler and Eichmann and Himmler and maybe perhaps even Dr. Mengele? Why can't we just exchange letters? Maybe we should do a yard site for them. And you say, no, why? The Christians are not killing us. According to you, they're not. According to Judaism, they are. But perhaps you don't know what the difference is. This is some of the things we're going to try to discuss today. Why? Because if we are going to continue operating in the world without Daat Torah, without the opinion of a Torah, we're not really going to get very far, Rabotai. We're only going to get to a horrible place, unfortunately. The Holocaust, the Spanish Inquisition, the pogroms, the destruction of the first and second Beit HaMikdash, the constant disasters that have happened to our nation didn't happen to our nation because we were doing so great and serving Hashem so wonderfully that He just wanted to give us, a massacre. Every single time we went against God as a people, it eventually culminated with a tragedy, a very, very big one. No nation in history has suffered as much as the Jewish people. Other nations that have suffered typically have been eliminated from the world. No nation has suffered as much as the Jewish people, and the Torah promises that that's what we'll be. If we follow the Torah, we will prosper, we will have great things. But if we don't, we will have disasters unlike any other nation. And this is literally a promise in the Torah. Look at Parashat Kitavo. It specifically says these types of things. So the point being is that if we do not go to Daat Torah, we don't go to the opinion of a Torah, we're not really going to get very far. Now, sometimes people think they do have Daat Torah, but their Daat Torah happens to always be similar to their Daat self, their own personal opinion and their own personal preference. So how do you know whether something is Daat Torah or not? First and foremost, that someone that really has Daat Torah actually said it. And second, and agrees with the halacha, agrees with everything. And second of all, is that even the learning, the teaching, the understanding of it is full of Yirat Shamayim. If it does not have Yirat Shamayim, if it does not have fear of heaven connected to it, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. Why? Because the foundation of the Torah is fear of heaven. And anyone that has an inkling of real knowledge that is Torah based has to have fear of heaven. It's not a suggestion or anything else. And quite frankly, the more you learn Torah, the more you realize this. In the beginning, you thought it's a good thing to aspire to. As you continue progressing, you realize that you really never had anything until you got to it. And even when you think you got to it, you're not really sure you really got to it, because a week later, a month later, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, so much has changed that you realize that when you thought you got to it, you really actually had nothing. Because there's so much more to fear than you realized, a few years ago when you thought you got to it. And the more a person knows Torah, the more they know how much they have to fear in this world. But unfortunately, Rabotai, in the world today, there is a lacking in a lot of different places. Our job is to try to bring light to certain issues. Whether those issues are going to tickle your fancy or not doesn't really make much of a difference. Whether it makes us more popular or not doesn't make much of a difference. Like someone made a comment or sent a message saying, do you know how much more popular you would be if you did not go and bash other rabbis? This is an interesting comment, because it assumes that I actually want more fans. It assumes that I want more likes. It assumes that I want to be liked. It assumes that I need to be liked. What I need is to learn Torah, and do my best to share it. Those that want to learn with me, Bruchim Habayim, you too will be blessed, like the countless people that have been blessed as a result of learning Torah. It has nothing to do with me. Anybody can do this job. Just simply dedicate your whole life to it. Pretty much take every single thing that of this world and throw it in the garbage, and dedicate your life to helping people and learning Torah. You want to do it, you can do it. It's really not something that's impossible. It's just that not everybody's willing to do it, because most people are addicted to things that, Baruch Hashem, I'm not. But it's not something that you can't do or anybody can't do. Everybody can do this. It's just that most people are living a life that is a little bit more self-centered, let's just say that. So the key is to understand is that we're not looking for more students, we're not looking for more fans, we're not looking for more likes. We're looking to learn Torah, to share Torah, and Be'ezrat Hashem, as a result of those things, Hashem will send us an endless amount of people that have similar desires. And those people will benefit as a result of it. Simple. And of course, we benefit as a result of doing kiruv and the olam haba and everything else, and even this world. But the point being is that we're never going to do a lecture just because it's going to get people to like us. This is the world of Ephraim. This is the world of Manis. This is the world of all of the other Reshaim. Where they go, astray in their Torah career, if you want to call it that, is when they start looking for popularity. That's when you see them starting to go off where the original good direction they were on. You start seeing them go off the direction. And I could name a million different things that I've seen in my life, both in the business world and unfortunately in the Torah world, of how people that started off good, went in the wrong direction at some point. Why? They were looking for likes. They were looking for popularity. And unfortunately, anytime somebody follows that type of path, they're doomed. They're simply doomed. So Baruch Hashem, What we're looking for is to hopefully one day learn some Torah. Hopefully one day we'll know some Torah. That's it. That's all we want in life. And B'ezrat Hashem, if people want to do it with us, b'chavod. Now, of course, part of learning Torah, part of teaching Torah is defending the Torah. It makes no sense to learn Torah and just keep it for yourself. It makes no sense to love the Torah and let it be desecrated out in the open by wicked people. So, of course, part of it is the wars. That's why the Torah itself is called the Book of Wars. It's a pasuk in the Torah. It's a book of wars. So part of the Torah is fighting for the sake of the Torah. Not because God needs you to fight for Him, but rather because God wants you to fight for Him. Why does He want you to fight for Him? Because it shows you love. It shows love. Simple. Your wife doesn't want you to go fight another guy that embarrassed her in public. She doesn't, it's just not like she needs you to go do it. But if you did it, she wouldn't necessarily go against it. Why? Because it shows that you care for her. A relationship that does not have some form of jealousy in it is a dead relationship. That's what the Gemara says. There has to be some jealousy in a relationship, both from the wife's side and the husband's side. So when we look at Torah in the right way, we realize that there is no other choice. This is what it is. And when we see that the Torah constantly talks about fear of heaven, punishment, this, that, the other, constantly talking about all these different things, and then you see that you're almost alone in the world because very few speakers speak this way. And it makes it seem as if you're the crazy one, but then again, you ask big Talmidei Chachamim, you ask Dayanim, you ask Gdolei Ador, you read their books, you read the Psak Halacha, and you see, it's either everybody that's ever been a righteous person is a crazy person, or, unfortunately, the opposite. The opposite. So, this, Rabotai, is one of the beautiful things about Torah, is that we have a documented lineage, documented teachings unlike any other nation, to such an extent that anything you want, any question you can possibly have, there is a place in the Torah that discusses it in detail. And if a person really toils, they'll find the answers. Unfortunately, most people are used to, just simply their level of toil is sending a text message and saying, can you show me the source for XYZ? As if they're going to go look up that source even if you give it to them. The reality is someone that's truly looking for an answer knows that the last thing you want to do is go ask somebody for a source for it. The first thing you want to do is go try to look for it yourself. Why? Because on the path of looking for it, you'll find a bunch of other treasures. Anyway, Rabotai, we have a connection in the parasha of the teachings of Yirat Shamayim. Teaching of Yirat Shamayim, constant mention of Yirat Shamayim. Now, why is the parasha that talks about Yirat Shamayim, about fear of heaven, connected to the whole issue of the Chaim Walder debacle? Because this is what's going to decipher whether you accept everything that I'm about to tell you or not. If you have fear of heaven, you will not have any questions at the end of this shiur. Even if you heard the exact opposite of what I just said, you will not have any questions of what's the right opinion. If you do not have fear of heaven, then B'ezrat Hashem, you could send us your name and we'll pray for you, maybe it's for refuah shlema, because there's something wrong with you. Because it's clear as day. It's clear as day that this is what the Torah is teaching us. Now, the whole issue that has happened, has transpired, and we're not going to go into all the details. There's just I'm sure everybody has heard of this, but I'll give you brief details. Haim Walder was a extraordinarily successful author of children's books, wrote something like 80 books or more, and pretty much the top in the market, he was extremely well known, extremely well liked, extremely well publicized. But over the last year or so, there's been a campaign against him, where something like maybe 6 or 8 months ago, a certain Beth Din passed out or at least people in the name of that Beth Din, passed out some type of poster online saying that his books are no longer welcome.
Now, when we called that Beth Din to see why are the books no longer welcome, we didn't get an answer. And the reason why is because nobody picks up the phone in that Beth Din. I would be surprised if the Beth Din is even a real Beth Din. But when people see things on the internet, they assume, especially if it has a logo, if it has Hebrew writing, if it has something spicy, people automatically believe it to be true, and they spread it like wildfire. Hence the reason of why Hashem turned the staff of Moshe Rabbeinu to a snake, because Moshe Rabbeinu in essence said Lashon Hara, unintentionally, but nonetheless said Lashon Hara about Am Yisrael, that are not going to accept that he spoke to God. So Hashem said, "This is Lashon Hara. Throw your staff on the floor," and the staff turned into a snake. Why a snake? Because a snake is a symbolic of Lashon Hara. Snake bites, it has venom, and that venom is a deadly killer. Same thing with the Tzaraat. That the second sign that Moshe Rabbeinu got, Tzaraat is the punishment for saying Lashon Hara. And unfortunately, when people get some of these posts, some of these memes, some of these things that they send out about how somebody is a bad guy according to somebody, people just simply share it, and the public consumes it like with no doubts. As soon as there is something out there, they consume it like no doubt. I'll give you a personal example. There was a list of I think 10 or 15 heretical rabbis that was published a couple of years ago, and from time to time it was updated, added, different names were added to it. Now, I've spoken about some of those, probably half of those rabbis on that list. But I never put together that list. I never wrote that list. I don't have a list. I know who's bad that I've spoken against. I know who's not. I'm not delirious. I have lectures. I'm a public figure, and I speak about these things publicly on a regular basis. But for whatever reason or another, people assume that I put together the list. Like I said, I have nothing to do in my life, and I put together lists. And in fact, what the truth is that when the list came out, the few people that I know that were sharing this list, I told them a million times not to publish the list. Why? It provides nothing other than tension, other than cause of fighting. It doesn't do anything good. There is no mitzvah of publishing that list. But of course, some people will listen. Some people will simply ignore. They'll say, Rabbi is weak. Rabbi is old. Rabbi is losing his mind. I need to warn the public. Everybody wants to be the big chassid all of a sudden, and they publish the list of bad rabbis, as if that's going to create any good in the world. And best yet, they update it from time to time. Now, again, I don't really care enough about it to do anything, but the point being is that everyone assumed this is my list. Why? Because I've spoken about half of those rabbis that are there, they're heretics and so on. So people assume, and they assume that even the ones I didn't speak about, I also this, and even the ones that people add from time to time that I don't even know who they are, that's also me. And people just assume that if they see it on the internet, it must be true. So needless to say, when a poster came out a year ago or so about Chaim Walder and his books not being accepted in a certain community in Eretz Yisrael, automatically I got a bunch of, at least a half a dozen or more messages from people saying, look, we have to warn the public. Rabbi, this is your job. Oh, thank you very much for telling me my job. I really appreciate it. Who are you again? Bunch of strangers tell me about my job and how I'm responsible to be the police officer for the world of rabbis, and I have to warn the public. Ludicrous situations literally happen here on a regular basis. But nonetheless, we looked into it. We made a phone call. We found out the Beth Din doesn't even exist, or simply is not really operational. But the post was very operational. In fact, if there was a real Beth Din with that behind that poster, that Beth Din would probably become very successful. How popular it become. People would use it just because of that stupid poster. But nonetheless, this was the first sign we got from this whole parasha about Chaim Walder. Then, of course, something came out a couple of months ago in the most, how could I say this, the most liberal, anti-Torah, anti-Semitic newspaper on planet Earth named HaBRIT. It might as well be called Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf for Jews.
that hate themselves. And HaBRIT publicized a story about how Chaim Walder did all types of heinous crimes, pedophilia, rape, adultery, all types, like literally, like the guy apparently, according to the article, is, and it just got worse as the articles kept being publicized. I didn't follow most of them. Just I saw a couple here and there people would send me that I can't avoid, and just to see what's going on. And literally, they simply turned this person that has written over 80 children's books into Esav's older brother. Like Amalek, I think, was like more comparable. Some unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how a person can make that many crimes in a lifetime. But apparently Chaim Walder did. Now again, I'm not defending Chaim Walder. I'm not going against Chaim Walder at this point. What I'm telling you is what happened in the media. Now, of course, they had a rabbi behind this, a rabbi that's relatively well known because of his father, and they who said, yeah, he did this. We have a testimony from victims. We have testimony from victims. For and that's what they said. Okay, now this already sounded strange. Why? Because that's not really how the world of Torah works. Like if there's an issue, whether it's pedophilia or it's rape or it's adultery or any of these things, it goes to a Beth Din. It doesn't just go to the media. But that's something we're going to get to in a moment. Never hiding it. You're supposed to go to a Beth Din, though. You're not supposed to go to the media first. Like, why are you going to the media first? It was already strange from day one. Then shortly later, when questions started coming up from different rabbis, the very same Rabbi Eliyahu said, we've already known about this issue for years. So then you ask a new question. Wait a minute. If you know that this Chaim Walder that's writing books for children is also murdering every single one of them, both according to the Torah and according to pretty much reality, then why are you waiting for years? So the whole thing sounded strange from day one for anyone that read it. Now, if that wasn't enough, I mentioned to you guys in the Shiur, for whoever watches them on a regular basis, that a couple of book outlets publicized they're no longer going to carry the Chaim Walder books. They simply decided to ban him. Now, if you are operating based on the laws of the land, the logic of society, nothing seems array. Nothing seems bad. In fact, people applaud those bookstores, those publications, the rabbi that was in the secular newspaper for spreading the word. This sounds like wow, finally Judaism is changing. They're not hiding stuff anymore, according to the liberal-minded. But if you're thinking about it in the opinion of the Torah, not only are you wrong, you've just committed a much worse crime than any of the crimes that he's being accused of. Why? Now, there was a lot of stories that spread, and one of the things that we were looking for, and Rabbi Ephraim worked on this extensively, is an authentic source. And every time you would get to a place, you'd see that this is just hearsay. No legitimate proof. Somebody said that they heard something, that they saw something. Recently, after the suicide, there was a recording. Oh, so the recording, according to the Torah, it's not a source. It's not a valid source. And we'll get to that in a moment. But society and most people today are already on the thank God he died camp. Already on the, poor victims, we should start a charity fund for them. Already on a good job for all the people that went against it. Everybody's already on that train and already asking the question, what do we do with the books? On one hand, he was a monster. On another hand, the books are pretty good. What should we do? That's a halachic question, Rabbi. And I've gotten a half a dozen of those questions too. You know what the question is? How do you know he was a monster? Well, I saw it in the media. Where media? What do you mean you saw it in the media? You have a Beth Din? No, the newspaper said that the Beth Din judged and ruled that he is a monster, that he's guilty. The Beth Din ruled that he's guilty? Well, do you know how a Beth Din works? Well, I don't know. Beth Din works, they just decide something. Well, if that was the case, we wouldn't have Judaism. We'd have communism. Beth Din does not work where they just simply decide. There's no such thing of a Beth Din without the person. There's no such thing. And that's one of the things that people are not realizing. Everything that's out there in the media today about this case is not according to halacha. It's not according to the Torah. In fact, it's the opposite. Now you're going to say, yeah, but you know what? He killed himself. So that is already admitting guilt. And you'd be wrong. Why? We'll get to that in a moment. So already I'm giving you guys a bunch of different things that already should be, for anyone that's been following this parasha, should drive you crazy. And you should already get some feelings in your heart, perhaps some of hate, some of anger. Please do me a favor, invite your friends. Perhaps they could learn something too. Now we were looking for an authentic source. Before, during, after the suicide. During meaning days before. After we found out about the suicide. We're looking for an authentic source. After the whole thing came out, after a lot more came out after the suicide, where the Beth Din said that they ruled that they have at least 22 confirmed cases, a recording of what they say is Chaim Walder saying that if this story comes out, he'll kill himself, he'll shoot himself, which again, to society at large is absent-minded when it comes to Torah, this seems like perfect evidence to convict somebody to simply do everything that happened. But according to the Torah, none of this is valid. We called the Beth Din. Beth Din doesn't want to talk. Why doesn't the Beth Din want to talk? They want to talk to HaBRIT. They want to talk to the secular newspapers. But to a Talmid Chacham, they don't want to talk. Why? I guess they're too busy with HaBRIT. They don't want to talk. We called some Dayanim. We called some Chachamim. We spoke to some of Gdolei Ador. We spoke to people with experience. We spoke to people that have an extraordinary amount of knowledge. And I'm going to tell you some names. Everything is verifiable. Everything is sourced. And each and every single Gadol that we got to was baffled that this whole thing was even happening. Now, right now, there are in essence 3 conclusions generally that people have arrived to. Conclusion number 1, that he was a criminal of the highest extent. Rapist, adulterer, pedophile, I don't know, everything and anything you could possibly throw in there. That's conclusion number 1. Some people are even disappointed in me that I haven't spoken about this already. It's like, Rabbi, what's going on with you? Maybe you should stop focusing on the missionaries. Talk about something really important. What? Haim Walder is a rapist, pedophile, murderer, killer. Okay, buddy, relax. Quite frankly, didn't even want to talk about this. But it seems like something needs to happen for the sake of learning Torah. So the first conclusion that people have, worst person on planet Earth, since perhaps maybe Hitler. Second conclusion, that he was a tzaddik and targeted by people and simply a victim of his own success. That's second. Although not as common, at least doesn't seem like it according to the media and the general consensus that I see out there. But there are some people out there that say, no, he didn't do any of these things. He's a victim. Those first two are not going to like this shiur. The third is someone who simply doesn't know what to make of it. They're going to like this shiur. Somebody doesn't know what to make out of it. They don't know whether he did it, he didn't do it, what to do, how to do. They're looking for the truth. They're going to like this shiur. Why? If you're seriously looking for the truth, you'll find it. Now, there is a precedent in the Jewish law. It's also in secular law that is called cheskat kashrut. Cheskat kashrut, the original source of it, or one of many sources in the Gemara, Masechet Kiddushin, page 74a, or 74b, or 72b. You also have it in a few other places. Cheskat kashrut is in essence innocent until proven guilty. If you see a religious person, doesn't make a difference if you like them or not, you have to assume that they are innocent. And not just assume that they're guilty. Assume that they don't have something. Like someone would ask you, listen, I don't know, I saw this person is religious, but I saw them driving on Shabbat. Can I hate them? Can I make fun of them? Am I allowed to say Lashon Hara about them because they mechalel Shabbat? Wait, if they're known as a kosher person, you are actually sinning by thinking those things. You know what you're supposed to be thinking? Different creative ways of why this person is not sinning, but actually doing a mitzvah on Shabbat by driving. How could it be a mitzvah driving on Shabbat? Perhaps there's somebody in the back seat that they're taking to the hospital to save their life. Perhaps they are in a major life risk situation. They're saving a life. Perhaps they're a doctor. If a person is known as a kosher person, you are actually obligated to give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, but Rabbi, I saw that they eat and I don't know, I didn't see them do a blessing. If they're a religious person, you have to assume that the lacking is on you, not them. Why? The fact that you didn't see them doesn't mean anything. The fact that you didn't see them do the mitzvah, bikat hamazon, do a blessing, whatever it is that you think that they're missing on, doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. If they're known as a kosher person, you have to give them what's called cheskat, they have cheskat kashrut, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, one of the places that discusses this is the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim, people love to talk about, oh, Rabbi, don't say that it's Lashon Hara. Quite frankly, I think a very, very small minority of people have ever actually read a single halacha in Lashon Hara. Chafetz Chaim probably is upset at most of these people that keep mentioning his name in the name of Lashon Hara when they don't even know what they're saying. And we'll see how this parasha of Haim Walder is a perfect example of that. Now in Klal 8, Seif Hey, the Chafetz Chaim says something that we've taught before, which is that כל האיסור של לשון הרע הוא דווקא על איש שעל פי דין תורה הוא עדיין בכלל עמיתך. דיינו, עם שאיתך בתורה ובמצוות, אבל אותן האנשים שמכירן שיש בהם אפיקורסות, מצווה לגנותם ולבזותם, בין פניהם ובין לא שפניהם. The entire prohibition of Lashon Hara applies specifically to victims who the Torah considers to be your brother, your fellow Jew, someone who observes Torah and mitzvot, but to those persons who are known as apostates, it's a mitzvah to degrade and humiliate them, either directly to them in their presence or not in their presence, for whatever sins they were seen committing or sins that were heard that they committed. So the whole issue of Lashon Hara is only referring to people that are frum. That's number one. Now, Furthermore, in a same Klal 8, סעיף ז', ודע עוד, דאם מוחזק בעיר לרשע, מפני שאר ענייני העבירות שמותר עבורם לגנותו, גם כן דינה אחי ואיזה הוא מוחזק, כל שהוסכם מפני אנשי העיר לרשע, עד שלא ייפול להם בו ספק, מחמת שמועות הרעות שיוצאות עליו, תמיד מענייני ניאוף וכיוצא בזה, דברים שנתפשט ידיעת איסורן בכל ישראל, אבל אם יצא עליו כל בעלמא בלבד, אסור לסמוך על זה, לגנותו, חס ושלום, ואפילו להחליט בלב אסור, וכמו שביארנו לעיל בכלל זין. ואף שהראיתי מאוד להעתיק דין הזה מפני בעלי הלשון, כשישמעו על אחד שמץ דבר מה, תכף יחזיקו את האיש ההוא למוחזק ברשע ויגנו אותו ויתלו את ההיתר בספר הזה. עם כל זה לא ישתמתיו, כשאמרם זיכרונם לברכה בבבא בתרא דף פ"ט על רבן יוחנן בן זכאי, אמרה במאי קרא אמרה כי ישרים דרכי אדוני וצדיקים ילכו בם ופושעים יכשלו בם. ספר הושע י"ד י'. Translation. Understand even more. If this person is established in a city as a rasha, as a wicked person, for a variety of other sins, for which it would be permitted to denigrate him, the law is also the same. Please see the necessarily relevant details as brought down in the Be'er Maim, his commentary here. Now, what's the definition of a established? Meaning that this person has to be known as an established in a city, or known as a wicked person. And the answer is the answer is it means that society has concluded that this person is a rasha beyond any doubt, because of the many bad stories constantly circulating about this person concerning adultery and other illicit affairs that he has had. Behavior that is commonly known throughout the Jewish society to be sinful. But if there was only a generalized rumor circulating about this person, it's forbidden to rely on it as authentic and to degrade him. God forbid. It's even forbidden to personally conclude an opinion about him inside your heart, as he explained in Klal 7. And then the Chafetz Chaim says, even though I was apprehensive about writing this law, because those people who do speak Lashon Hara, that when they hear the least impropriety about somebody, they'll immediately seize it and uphold the victim to be an established rasha and demean him, to justify demeaning him, and rationalize and justify their actions by relying on this leniency as a basis for their victims, for their actions. Nevertheless, I did not refrain from stating this, as the sages have taught us in the Gemara Bava Batra, page 89b, regarding Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, that quoted the prophet Hosea's words, that all of God's ways are just, righteous people will go in his ways, and sinful people will trip and fall. So here we see the Chafetz Chaim giving us some food for thought. What's the food for thought? If the person is known as a rasha, established a rasha, then go to town on this guy. But how do you know if he's an established rasha? If it was proven that he is an adulterer, a rapist, all types of immorality. But if there's no proof, it's simply a rumor, you're not even allowed to think negatively about him. Even to think negatively about him, you're not allowed. Why? He still, according to all opinions in the Torah, still has cheskat kashrut. To think anything negatively about him, whether during his life or after, is isur Torah. And all of those people say, oh, okay, so that means that he has to be established wicked. So Chafetz Chaim says, I was worried about putting this law. Why? Because some people are going to say, listen, this guy is bad. I just know it in my heart he's bad. I know it in my heart he's bad. Yeah, but you can't say it if you don't have proof. No. He's known as a Rasha. They're going to actually force the guy to be a Rasha in their mind and in the other people's opinion in order to give themselves a rationale to justify their lashon hara. Now, the Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan, page 18b, says, in the name of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says, may my share be like the one who's being suspected or accused and he's really innocent because his reward is huge. And Rav Papa says, they accused me and they didn't find anything because I'm innocent. He was proud of this. That he has a share in the world to come. He has a very significant reward because he was accused. Moshe Rabbeinu was accused. David HaMelech was accused. A lot of people the righteous were accused. And Rabbi Yossi and Rav Papa are talking about, how great it is, the reward for someone that's being accused of something and really they're innocent. Now, but they're also teaching us, how do we know if it's really accused, but it's really legit or it's not a legit? Because you could say, listen, we're never going to know what we have, So there's a few signs. One thing, the Gemara says, if the sound of the outcry, people complaining, people saying all these bad things, if it eventually stops, meaning there's a lot of rah-rah, but whatever, a month later, 2 months later, a few months later, whatever it is, it stops. Chachamim say that's already a sign from Shamayim that the guy's really innocent. Meaning that if the guy is really guilty, it's just not going to stop. Maybe it'll take breaks, but it's not going to stop. We'll keep coming back. From Shamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps sending more signs to different people to rile this guy, to rile it up, to expose this person. Now the sages said that these rules of Lashon Hara, and whether it's the guy is innocent as a result of the outcry stopping or continuing, these specific rules are for people who don't have enemies. That's what the Gemara is saying. But with enemies, if people have enemies, then they are the ones that publicize this Lashon Hara about them. It's all coming from them. Meaning, there's a different set of rules for people that are in position of power, position of success. There's different rules for them. Why? Because they have enemies. Now you could say everybody has enemies. Yes, everybody has enemies, but people that are public figures, important people, successful people, every normal person will know and agree that they have a lot more enemies than your average person does. Now there's a responsa called Koach Shor by Rabbi Yitzchak Shor. And he says that a Rav, with a rabbinical position is certainly one who has haters. So anything that is said about this Rav or his wife or anything that's connected to him is typically made up by his enemies. And therefore, it's just hearsay. If it's just hearsay, it needs to be ignored. Meaning, you have a rabbi. That rabbi, he's either a rabbi of a community, rabbi of a city, rabbi of a country. He's a very big public figure, successful in one way, author, whatever it is, and has a pretty large circle of influence. And one day, somebody comes out and says, that rabbi is cheating on his wife. That rabbi, one of those.
You know that rabbi, this. No, rabbi is that. Oh, the guy, rabbi's wife and him, they're not really married. They just pretend. Like, Bill Clinton and his wife. Unless you have proof, forbidden to say such things, needless to say, but even more so, the mitzvah here is to ignore it, as if it was never said. If there's no evidence that proves it conclusively, ignored as if it's air. Why? Surely it came from his enemies. And that's a psak halacha. It's not a suggestion, guide for life. Now, one of the Dayanim that we spoke to about this issue, very extraordinary Talmid Chacham, at times speaks on behalf of the Hidabrut organization, the Rishon LeZion, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, Rav Reuven Zakaim, Sheikheh. It's one of the tzaddikim that gave me an askama for my sefer. One of the things he said, and we're going to go into even more things that he said, but one of the things he said, that if a person brings a psak din, like a Beth Din, brings their psak din, their conclusion of some type of case, to the media, rather than dealing with the ramifications of this issue, there's something wrong. It's just not something, there's something fishy here already. It shows clearly that there's some type of bias, some type of obsession. Something is not normal here. And clearly there is a problem with such a psak din. Now someone sent Rav Ephraim the Tshuvot HaMaharsham. In a section Even HaEzel, 133, it asks the question, is a woman that is accused of immorality, cheating on her husband, all types of horrible, heinous crimes against Hashem and also against her family. And she refuses to go to the Beth Din, refuses to go to the Bet Mikdash. They tell, listen, you're accused of adultery, and in order to prove your innocence, you have to come to the Bet Mikdash. The Kohen Gadol will give you the bitter waters. You drink it. If you're innocent, you'll get blessings from the Kohen Gadol, that if you have ugly kids, your kids will be beautiful. If you have stupid kids, your kids will be smart. If you don't have kids, you'll have kids, and so on and so forth. You get the best blessing in the world. If you're guilty, then that water is going to make a miracle, a spectacle for the rest of us to watch. You're probably not going to enjoy it so much. What's going to happen? You're going to blow up. Poof. Not so much fun. Now, there's a whole process. If you read Gemara Masechet Sotah, it's a whole process, a very difficult process that takes place before they make her drink the water, because they really don't want her to drink the water if she's really guilty, because they don't want to kill her. They rather just say admit it, and then you can just go on your way. That's it. You'll be released from the ketubah and so on. But the point is that if you admit it versus getting caught, it's two different things. Just like if somebody stole, if they return the money before they got caught, they just have to return what they stole. But if they got caught, they have to return double. So the question that the Maharsham asks is that this woman is accused of all types of immorality, and she refuses to come to the Beth Din. Is her refusal considered as if she is admitting that she's guilty? And the Maharsham brings the Rambam. The Rambam in
Ilchot Sotah, chapter 3 halacha, the second halacha, where he says that a woman says, I don't want to drink the bitter waters. And therefore, there's no way for you to know whether she is guilty or not 100%. So what does the Beth Din do? What does the Bet Mikdash do? She's released without ketubah benefits. Where despite the fact that she never admitted to being impure, she never admitted to being, to cheating, to doing the immoral crime, she still loses the ketubah because she if she was pure, if she really didn't commit any crime, then she wouldn't fear drinking it. So clearly, she's not ready for this, and she's not rejecting it for nothing. But you can't say for sure that she sinned. But you can't say that she didn't sin. Meaning, you don't have 100%. Why? Because with the bitter waters of the Beit HaMikdash, there's no playing games here. This is guaranteed. So on one hand, you can't know for sure. On the other hand, you can't know for sure. So the question is, what do we learn from this? We're not going to the Beit HaMikdash to go drink bitter waters. What do we learn from this tshuva? Why would somebody send this tshuva to deal with the whole Chaim Walder case? He says, look at the end. The ending is, okay, this woman potentially cheated, potentially she didn't cheat. We don't really know 100%. But what we do know for sure, she refuses to drink the water. That's what we know for sure. She's not drinking the water for no reason, because she knows that she's losing. She's getting a divorce without getting a ketubah. She's back on the streets with nothing. So now it's not exactly a great condition. If she was really 100% innocent, she'd just drink the water. She wouldn't be afraid. So obviously there's something wrong here. Maybe this, maybe that. But we can't say 100% she sinned. Either way, what we do learn from this is something that's relevant to the Haim Walder case. Would a normal person go to a Beth Din if the Beth Din has already decided that they're guilty before he even came there? Would he, if you had said, listen, we want you to come to court. Why? Because you're guilty of murder, rape, this, that, the other thing. But we need to stamp it on a piece of paper that you came in so we can complete the procedure. Would you go? No normal person would go. Why? You've already concluded I'm guilty. You didn't even ask me a question. You don't have any factual evidence. What do you have? A few people said something to you, or a lot of few people? That's how you concluded? Why would I go? You've already decided. That's in essence what Chaim Walder said. He wrote in the letter that he's going to sue all these people in the Beth Din of Shamayim for all their false accusations. In essence, he felt that the reason why he rejected going to the Beth Din, that they asked him to come, is because they've already concluded that he was guilty before he came there. Now, is that enough to say, oh, he's innocent? No. Guilty? No. So where do we go to get that? Chachmei Israel. Chachmei Israel, we have to go to them. How do they think? Every single one of the sages we've spoken to, whether it's Rav Gidon ben Moshe, Rav Yitzchak Yosef, who spoke to Rav Reuven Zakaim, reading what Rav Gershon Ellenstein wrote, all of them said similar things. First, why would Chaim Walder, who was connected to the Haredi sect of Judaism, why would he go to an unknown Beth Din run by a Zionist? Now there are several Beth Din that are world-renowned, world-accepted in the Haredi communities. These are Beth Dins that are Rav Ovadia, is one of them. I think there's one by Rav Karelitz. There's other really serious Beth Din that everybody knows this is it. They don't care about nothing other than the truth. Recognized by everyone. Why would you invite me to go to that to some Beth Din that not only is not really known, not really accepted in the Haredi community, and also the leader is very, very well connected to the Zionist movement, which is not exactly an ideal situation to deal with for someone that's a Haredi. Why would I go to such a Beth Din? That's one of the questions that the Chachamim are asking. Why would he go to such a Beth Din? Why wouldn't, if you really have a case, go take him to a normal Beth Din that everybody agrees with, that has a similar hashkafa. That's number one. Rav Reuven Zakaim had a very serious one-on-one conversation with Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef. And he wrote exactly what happened. After he told him the whole story with the Chaim Walder, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef was shocked. Not only shocked at this particular event, but shocked at the low level of where the Haredi community is today. How there's all these types of immoralities and crimes and accusations. And he said exactly these words. He said, I'm a small nothing, but we must go back to speaking to people about reward and punishment. To the Haredim we have to speak about reward and punishment. That an eye is watching, an ear is hearing, and that all of your actions are recorded. Who will merit us with such rabbis that have a pure heart that could come and rebuke the community? Like Rav Ovadia, Rav Yehuda Tzadka, Rav Nisim Yagen, that spoke clearly about Gan Eden and Gehenom. This is Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef saying we need to merit people to come speak to us again about the basics, Gan Eden, Gehenom, like his father did, like Rav Yehuda Tzadka did, like Rav Nisim Yagen did. If you're familiar with these names, it's because we've said these names 1,000 times in our lectures. These are Chachmei Israel, spoke clearly about heaven and hell, Gan Eden, Gehenom. The Rishon LeZion says we need those people back. No one's speaking about Gan Eden and Gehenom. That's why it's happening, all this immorality. Secondly, he says, we must open a Beth Din that's certified and accepted by all of the main sects of the Haredi community. Not because each one has their own. So one Beth Din that everybody accepts. It won't be easy, and is certainly not going to include every single type of Chassidut, but it will definitely be preferable over the inappropriate judgments that are happening today in different Beth Din that are not really recognized. Their judgments of obligating somebody or relieving somebody will be the final judgment. These new Beth Din. And from there, they can report these judgments to the authorities, to the police, and help institute the actual law. If somebody did a rape, if somebody a pedophile, all these different types of things, you have to work with the police. You can't just say, oh, listen, we're going to deal with this internally. No one's ever going to know about it. No, you have to deal with it. But he says, but at least now, if we have these types of Beth Din, at least the mainstream Haredim will have some peace of mind that they can rely on it. Surely it's going to have some naysayers that go against it, but mainstream Haredim, most Haredim are going to agree with it and have peace of mind as a result of such a thing. And this will also address the unavoidable immorality epidemic that we have in our communities that we cannot ignore. Pedophilia and the like, that is considered 100% murder, according to our Torah. And as a side note, much of the former yeshiva boys that end up going off the derech has to do with traumatizing experiences such as these. There's proven statistics for this, says Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef. But even there are false accusations too. And this new types of Beth Din can lower this too. Not only the crime, but also the false accusations. People say, oh, this guy did this to me and he never touched you. He doesn't even know who you are. Not all of the accusations are true, which a lot of people assume. This case is one of those cases where everybody pretty much jumped on the bandwagon that he's guilty, he's the worst person on planet Earth. But we have to see, do we have acceptable evidence according to the Torah? Which we are almost there. We're almost there, we're going to get to that. But Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, that's pleading for rabbis to come speak about Gan Eden and Gehenom, says if somebody can speak about Gan Eden and Gehenom clearly, I'll put him on the Lavyan with me. He has a station every Motzei Shabbat, he speaks. It's all over the world, just like his father did. So if somebody can speak about Gan Eden and Gehenom, I'll put him on the Lavyan with me. That's how terrible the situation is in the world today, Rabotai. He says, what's happening with the Beth Din, this Beth Din, what happened with this whole story, this Beth Din Sadeh, that is publicizing to the media, they ended up hanging the accused. And with all respect to this Beth Din involved with this case, there are many questionable actions that they did. One, a Beth Din set itself up to speak to the media directly. Already in itself is strange. Unusual for such behavior. We are not a secular courthouse. A Beth Din speaking to the media? Unheard of. Unheard of. But not only that, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef says, they speak to the media even after the accused is buried, when there's no benefit whatsoever. What's the point of saying he's accused, he's guilty, he's dead? You don't speak about him after he's dead. Nothing. How is that going to benefit anyone? Showing that from just the fact that they're speaking about it to the media, lefty liberal media, after the guy is dead when there's no benefit, that this is a strange obsession that they had. Two, they were unusually quick to conclude judgment. And when the liberal newspaper HaBRIT comes to them and shows fake interest in the religious community, while they really have clear hatred for the religious community, they end up getting to speak with the head Dayan, Rav Shmuel Eliyahu. This must concern us. I know that some of you are not familiar with how the Beth Din in the Jewish world works. Anyone that is simply saying, yeah, of course, this is the strangest thing. No one's ever heard of such a thing. No one's ever heard of such behavior from a Beth Din. Forget about what the crime is. It could have been stealing apples from a supermarket. It doesn't make a difference. For a Beth Din to act this way, Doesn't make any sense. Then we go to another Gadol, Rav Gershon Edelstein, who wrote publicly, the public defacement of Chaim Walder is going to be judged in heaven much worse punishment than he will get even if he's guilty of all of the alleged crimes. Meaning, even if he's guilty of all the things that they accuse him of, all of those people that publicized what they publicized, talked about it, people shared it, all of those people will get a much, much bigger punishment than he will get. Why? Because, Rabotai Karim, someone that, makes a crime, the Torah speaks about it heavily. You go to Parashat Kitisa, you go to Parashat Kedoshim. Several parashot talk about how they treat rape and pedophilia like it's murder. No less than murder. But a murderer still is a person that has Olam Haba. But a person that embarrasses another Jew in public, that's a kosher Jew, has no share of the world to come. Now again, you say, well, but if he really is raping, he's not a kosher Jew. He's not a kosher Jew in that particular sin. But that doesn't give you the permission to make him not a kosher Jew according to everything. Each crime has certain standards. And when a Beth Din aligns itself with a lefty liberal newspaper that's only looking for ways to destroy the religious community in every way possible to make it look bad, clearly there's something wrong here. And unfortunately, when other religious people and even rabbis speak about this in the same fashion, taking the proofs of a newspaper as the proof that this guy is guilty and that we can freely speak against him, Rav Edelstein says they're going to get a much bigger punishment if they don't do tshuva than he will get even if he's guilty. This is not an opinion. This is Daat Torah. Furthermore, Rabotai, the most important thing that every single one of the Gedolim said, all of the crimes, the rape, the pedophilia, the adultery, all of it are only alleged. None of them were proven halachically. Not a single one were proven halachically by an acceptable Beth Din. None of them. Which means that according to the Torah, he still had Chizkat Kashrut. This is why one of the Talmidei Chachamim that wrote about it said, there's nothing even to talk about here. Not only can you keep his books, there's no reason for you to consider anything otherwise. Nothing happened here. He wasn't proven to be a rapist. He wasn't proven to be a pedophile. Wasn't proven nothing. Nothing was proven halachically. Yeah, but what about the 22 women? So what? It could be 2,000 women. That's not how it's proven halachically. Halachically requires him to come to a Beth Din. Halachically requires actual evidence. And that's one of the things. One of the things that hasn't been shown at this point. Hasn't been shown. What do they have? A recording. A recording of what they say is Chaim Walder saying that if this goes out, I'm going to kill myself. Several people that we spoke to. Well, I should correct, Rabbi Ephraim spoke to. That were extremely close to Chaim Walder. Rabbi Ephraim didn't know Chaim Walder. But several people that knew him that were very close to him. Some acquaintances of theirs. Like some just knew who he was. But knew. Conclusively said, we have no idea who that person is on that tape. It's not his voice. Heard his voice for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I know his voice. It's not his voice. Now to the general public that's getting it from the media, like, see, he's guilty. He wanted to kill himself. Did you ever think for a second that's not his voice? Probably not. Why? Because the whole way that the story has been presented is that he's guilty before you even completed the story. And also, anyone that spent a minute seeing what technology is available today, Rabotai Karim, should already know you can make that type of a video, that type of a audio about anyone at any moment. You could literally take any person you want and not only replicate their voice, saying anything you want. In fact, if you have the equipment, you could even make a video of them saying anything you want. And it's been done before. Not only it's been done in Hollywood for at least 25, 30 years. It's also been done in the secular world. It's been done in all types of places, and it also has been done in the frum world. One of the most strange cases that have happened in the last 10 years against a major rabbi is they had a video of the rabbi talking about all types of things that are inappropriate. And people that see, myself included, I saw this video, I said, wow, Ribono Shel Olam, it's crazy. I can't believe the rabbi is saying this stuff. But Baruch Hashem, Hashem had mercy on me, and literally 5 seconds later, I saw the real video. What's the real video? The real video is somebody else is talking. The rabbi's chewing. Somebody else is talking. Why? Because you hear the rabbi answer him. He's next to him, he's next to him. Both of their lips are moving if you pay attention to it. But when somebody already told you, no, it's the rabbi talking, you're only looking at the rabbi. You're not looking at the other guy. You're not a private detective. You're thinking that the rabbi is talking. But when someone shows you a bigger picture and shows you who's talking, you read their lips, and you see nothing that they're saying, he's saying, it's the other guy. But they pinned this on this guy, and they made a very, very clever video showing the two cases, proving it. Amazing job. But you see, mamash, how people can manipulate things in any way they want, put anything in anybody's mouth. But yet no one has thought about this in the media, that maybe the tape is not real. Maybe it's not his voice. Maybe it is his voice, but he didn't really say it. Nobody's taking that. The fact is, Rabotai, no one even mentioned yet that if there was really that many cases, because they're saying they have 22 confirmed women with multiple heinous crimes with each one of them, and many, many others that haven't been confirmed yet. I mean, this means that this person was literally, walking around without any clothes on just to be ready for the next crime. Like, he didn't have enough time to have clothes on. I don't know how he had time to write books. That many women, that many crimes, Hashem Yishmor v'Yatzil. When you have time to eat. But anyway, apparently, according to this, you had dozens of crimes with at least 22 victims that are confirmed and many more unconfirmed yet for years. No one's asked a simple question that I asked right away, Baruch Hashem. Number one, why did the Beth Din, the very same Beth Din that concluded what the conclusion is without having all of the halachically acceptable standards, why didn't that Beth Din that knew about this already for many years, why didn't you go to the cops? If you have a murderer in your community murdering new women and children pretty much on a daily basis, and you know about this, and you don't do anything, you're a bigger criminal than him. How do you know about this, and you know about the victims for years, but you sat quiet like a little nothing for years? And suddenly you woke up 2 months ago when a liberal newspaper called you. What about the community that you care so much about? How come you didn't say nothing for so many years while he's murdering people, raping them, breaking marriages? Hashem Yishmor, what kind of criminal you're saying he is? Why didn't you send him to jail? Why didn't you, kill him? Why don't you do something? Like, it doesn't make any sense. That's number one. Number two, this will connect with you young folks. Why? You young folks know how easy it is to have a camera. Today, everybody is a cameraman. Now, for anyone that says, yeah, but, Israel, it's like a third world country, you're an idiot. Israel is the most technologically advanced place on planet Earth, even more than America. Even more than America. If there were that many crimes in hotels, in schools, in wherever, not a single footage was caught. Nothing. Nothing was caught. Nothing. You couldn't find a single piece of evidence that you could show the public. The only thing you can show us is a recording that his friends, family, and other people that knew him say it's not even his voice. No evidence. No pictures. Nothing. I mean, if there was one woman or two, I say, okay. But you're saying there's dozens of women. None of the women have pictures they could put on Facebook. Nobody has a picture on their phone. Nobody has one of those little Kodak pictures that you buy at the store for $5. Nothing. Nobody has a picture of anything. How? How is that possible? Today, people, before they eat, they take a picture of their food. How is there no picture with so many victims? The truth is, Rabotai, the whole case doesn't make any sense. The whole case doesn't make any sense. And one of the other things that was brought up by one of the Chachamim is that, first off, the technology part, the pictures, doesn't make any sense. Because anyone that deals with technology knows how easy it is to forge these types of recordings. 2, multiple people came up and said that the voice is not his. 3, even if a person comes forward and says himself, I raped this woman, he's not believed immediately according to Halakha. Why? There are conditions to believing a person. The Gemara in Masechet Yevamot, page 25a, and also is Psak Halakha in the Rambam, in Ilchot Edut, chapter 12, Halakha number 2, says, En Adam nifsal al avera al pi atzmo. A person is not a proven, cancelled or, in essence, convicted on a sin based on his own words. Like he comes and says, I killed this one, or I raped that one, or I just committed adultery with this lady. So, why? I need witnesses. 2 witnesses to be exact. 2 kosher witnesses. If one of those witnesses is an idol worshiper, Mechalel Shabbat, you only have 1 witness. Testimony's garbage. If you're your own witness, needless to say, we can't believe you. Even if a woman comes and says to her husband, I just cheated on you, he doesn't have to believe her. Why? That's the halakha. If he believes her, he has to divorce her. But he doesn't have to believe her. Why? That's the halakha. Because the Rambam says, Eno nifsal ad sheyeh sham shtei edim. He's not convicted until he has 2 witnesses. So the Chachamim ask, why are there so many stories but there's no videos? No documented evidence. Where did all this happen? How come it took so many years to finally get to this point? One of the Gedolei Ador that Baruch Hashem were close to, Rav Gidon ben Moshe, he says, first and foremost, after the person dies, there's nothing to talk about. Whatever happened, happened. There's no way for us to know for sure. But the Torah considers the actions of rape as murder. Yet, the Gedolei Ador all ask the same questions, including Rav Gidon ben Moshe, saying this doesn't make any sense. He says, never in the history did a Beth Din conclude something without the accused being in the Beth Din. We're not a secular court. It doesn't work that way. Says the way that this Beth Din operated, never in the history such a thing happened. And these are people that are close to the issue. These are people that are dayanim. These are people that are experts. These are not just like, oh, he read some books and I like it. I follow the news. What the Torah treating these types of crimes as the worst crimes, yet Gdolei Ador are not jumping on the guilty train. They're not jumping on the guilty train. They're not accepting the article from Haaretz as legitimate evidence. Why? Because they have Daat Torah, Rabotai. They have Daat Torah. What's Daat Torah, Rabotai? Daat Torah is knowing how the rules work, where you consider everything. We'll finish it off with this. Most people say, Daat Torah, what's the difference between me and Rabbi Ovadia? What's the difference between me and the Rambam? Well, we'll give you a little example. Why their minds work this way and our minds work a different way. And when you look at an halakha in a Shulchan Aruch, you look at halakha in a Yalkut Yosef, you look at an halakha in anywhere that you look at, you're thinking, oh, okay, I can do this. Okay. The Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, page 63a, has a Mishnah. And the Mishnah says that there's a person that wants to marry this girl. And he says to her, you are my wife under the condition that when I show you to my father, he's going to accept that you're going to be my wife. But if he doesn't accept, then it retracts that you're not my wife. Okay, that's the condition. He says, At mikudeshet. Okay, now let's go see my father. Now at this moment, technically they're considered married. But if the father says no, then it's as if it never happened in the first place. If he says yes, then it was already married at that moment. So far you got me? Okay. So now they get to the father. And Shem Yirachem, they find out the father is dead. He's dead. So you can't give the opinion. So what happens? What's the conclusion? Conclusion number one, Gemara says, is that it's since it was waiting for the opinion of the father, because she didn't want to upset the father, therefore, since the father is not alive anymore, she's considered mekudeshet, she's considered his wife, everything is good as if the father approved it. Okay. Option number two, what if the son himself dies? The guy that's supposedly married to this girl, on the way to the father, he died. And therefore the father never saw the girl while he was with him. He only saw the girl moments after the kid died. So what happens to the girl? Is she married or not married? So the Gemara says to release her from all types of complications of the to be to marry his brother and all types of issues. We teach him, meaning we influence the father to say, no, I wouldn't have agreed anyway. And let her just go on her way, go on her life, and not be stuck in this situation. And she's not mekudeshet. Okay, so in our heads, we can figure out these are two logical options that could happen from this issue. Let's say we can think of a third option, which is he gets there and he says yes. He gets there and he says no. So already we have a little less than a handful of options. Let's say we're creative, we come up with another option. Somebody looks at this. I learned the topic. I learned the sugya. No, Habibi, you didn't. Why? If you go to the Shulchan Aruch, you go to the Shulchan Aruch, you go to the Bet Yosef. To the Bet Yosef by Rabbi Yosef Karo, same Baal of the Shulchan Aruch. In the section of Kiddushin, he goes over this sugya. And he gives 567 possibilities based on the words of the sages over the last 1,000 years. He gives 567 explanations of all of the different possibilities that were brought up by the sages, with a reason of why this is yes and this is no, and a final conclusion. Now, if Rabbi Yosef Karo went through 567 possibilities, you could go learn it. Spend a month, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, learn all of these different possibilities. And, I don't know, consider yourself as if you know this one sugya, assuming you understood what the hell was going on. On the other hand, if you look at it from the right perspective, you'll know that if he thought of 567, then needless to say, the sages before him also thought of them, and even more. And the sages of the Gemara that mentioned this in the Masechet Kiddushin not only thought of those, but thought of many more. Hopefully we got to 5. 4 we have. Hopefully we can get to 5. Rav Ovadia, one time, his son tells a story. They were learning Torah on Shabbat. They were learning the Khatam Sofer, because the Rav was writing one of his tshuvot, one of his responses in one of his Sfarim, and he went over the Khatam Sofer. He said they studied throughout the entire Shabbat, something like 17 hours. They're studying the writings of the Khatam Sofer. And the Rav Ovadia had many chidushim, many insights, many things. So on Motzei Shabbat, he got right into it and went to his book to write. So you'd figure, you study 17 hours of Torah, you had a bunch of different insights. What are you going to do? You're going to write a bunch of stuff. What does he write? 4 words. This is what Khatam Sofer wrote. In English it's 5. V'chen katav Khatam Sofer. 4 words. So his son, Rav David Yosef, says, but Abba, just studied 17 hours. You had many chidushim. Why don't you write some of them? Everybody says, for what? None of them are really changing anything. What, to show that I know something? If it's in essence the same thing of what he wrote, and it's nothing that's contradicting anything, and it's nothing that's going to bring anything else, why do I need to write these extra words? 17 hours he studied straight for 4 words to put in his book. The average person is proud if they learned a lecture for an hour and a half. Rabbi, I think I need a bracha. Why? I think I give a bracha. Oh, why? Oh, I just watched your entire lecture straight. 2.5 hours, Rabbi. I watched it straight. No, nothing. I think I give you a bracha now. I say to myself, yeah, probably give me a bracha. Give me a bracha. You watched the lecture for 2.5 hours. Study intensely for 17 hours just for the sake of 4 words. This is what the Khatam Sofer wrote. If Rav Ovadia, one of the Gedolei Hador, review for 17 hours just for 4 words, and his son says there's something wrong with this Beth Din, there's something wrong with this judgment, there's something wrong with people don't talk about Gan Eden and Gehenom, and it's leading to these crimes. And other Gedolei Hador are saying there's something wrong. We're not doing something good. What does it mean? It means, Rabotai, the further we are from Daat Torah, the further we are from where we would want to be for ourselves. Rav Ephraim wrote about this particular issue. He says that there's 2 possibilities, guilty or not guilty, about this Chaim Walder. If he did it, Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 13b, says, En apotropos la'arayot. We learn from that, no one is above the immorality. If you don't watch your eyes, you don't protect your brit, you'll fall. Hashem yishmor. If he didn't do it, לשון הרע וכל שכן הוצאת שם רע, הורג. That לשון הרע and הוצאת שם רע, it's a gossip, kills, as the Midrash Tanchuma in Parashat Metzorah says. If he did it, Hashem mashpil geim. Hashem brings down the proud. Psikta zutrita Parashat Beshalach. If he didn't do it, Dever shkarim lo yechon leneged enai. If he didn't do it, David HaMelech says in Tehillim 101, a person that says lies, Hashem doesn't even want to look at them. If he did it, הקנאה, התאווה והכבוד מוציאים את האדם מן העולם. The Mishnah in Avot, chapter 4, Mishnah 21, says that the jealousy, desire, and seeking for honor is what takes a person out of the world. If he didn't do it, החושד בכשרים לוקח בגופו, לוקה בגופו. If he didn't do it and they blaming him he did, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 97, says, a person that suspects kosher people is bringing damage to his own body. His own life is in danger. If he did it, if he did it, someone that desecrates Hashem's name behind the scenes, the punishment is in public. This is in the Pirkei Avot, chapter 4. If he didn't do it, ידינו שפכו את הדם הזה. If he didn't do it, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, says, our hands spilled his blood. If he did it, הבעל אשת איש מיתתו בחנק, ויש לו חלק לעולם הבא. If he did it, the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 107, says, someone that is an adulterer, his death is in strangulation, but he still has a share of the world to come. If he didn't do it, המלבין פני חברו ברבים, אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. If he didn't do it, that same Gemara, that same page says, someone that embarrasses his fellow in public has no share of the world to come. If he did it, בעבוד רשעים רינה. Mishlei 11, Shlomo HaMelech says, when the wicked die, we celebrate. If he didn't do it, El nekamot Hashem, El nekamot Yofia. If he didn't do it, then the God of revenge is here, the God of vengeance has arrived. Hashem yakum damo. If he didn't do it, Hashem will take revengeance for him. So, a person that's smart, if they can't connect to what the Daat Torah is, will do whatever they possibly can to help themselves reach Daat Torah. But in the meantime, say nothing. Not good, not bad. Why? If you're not saying what Daat Torah is, you're bringing a tragedy to yourself. Why? For what? You're not going to benefit out of it. But this is just a couple of examples, Rabotai, of how Daat Torah operates differently than a traditional person does. And just because someone is smart, just because somebody knows a lot of Torah, doesn't always mean that they make the right decisions, doesn't always mean that they have Daat Torah. Sometimes our emotions, sometimes our perception, sometimes different things motivate us to think. That's why we had to go to Mamash, serious giants in the world of Torah to confirm, and we got the same exact words one after another. Same conclusion. And that's why, if you have the books, you can keep them. There's really no reason not to. Again, we will never know what exactly happened. But according to the Torah, we cannot suspect that something did happen because there isn't enough evidence to do so. And anyone that does is making a very, very dear mistake and a prohibition according to the Torah. With that being said, we'll take some questions. I know I went on for a while, but okay. Hold on a second.
Okay, let's get the... All right. A lot of Tzaraat in today's lecture with the cameras. All right, let's see, questions. We have Jonah. How do you explain the purpose of the mitzvot to someone who doesn't know much, like a little kid? Are they for Hashem or are they for us? What is the significance in the broader scheme of things? Okay, very good. So the person needs to know that Hashem doesn't need anything. He's the Almighty. He doesn't benefit from us. He doesn't need us. He existed before us. He will exist after us. We cannot add to him. We cannot subtract from him. Anytime we say, oh, God was upset, God was angry, God was hurt, these are not real statements that actually happen, but rather something to make somebody understand the consequence of their actions, to make it easier for our ear to understand. Because in reality, our mitzvot, our actions are to add to ourselves. Our sins are hurting ourselves. A chet means something is missing. So we're missing, we're taking something away from ourselves. Now, this goes back to why are there mitzvot in the first place? So when Hashem first created the souls, the souls lived in something like a heaven. They had everything that they needed. They were not lacking anything. But since Hashem, He's the ultimate good, and good is defined by creating good. You can't say I'm good if all you do is bad, if all you do is selfish. So Hashem, because He's good, He wanted to create good. But when He created us, He created originally the neshamot. Those neshamot had the similar trait to Him where they were also good. But they cannot be good without doing good. And since God doesn't need anything, they couldn't do any good. So they suffered as a result of the good that they got because they couldn't do good to reciprocate. So in essence, the souls asked Hashem for a way for them to earn this reward, to earn this good that He's giving them. So therefore, Hashem in essence created this world. And He says, over here you'll go and you'll have a test. And if you pass the test, then you'll get a reward, which in essence will justify the good that you'll get eternally. So all of the mitzvot that we have in this world are ways for us to not only serve Hashem, do the will of the King, but also to fulfill our obligation for our own journey to get closer to Hashem. With each mitzvah, we get closer to Hashem. This is like, for example, like a video game. Each time you complete a chapter, you get closer to the main guy. And each time you get another apple or another banana or another, coin, then you get a little bit closer to the destination that you want. Same concept with mitzvot. Each mitzvah gets you closer to the Creator, but at the same time also has an immediate benefit to you. Sometimes that you see, sometimes that you don't see. So the mitzvot are ways for us to do multiple things in order to fulfill our purpose in the world, but also to get closer to Hashem. To get closer to Hashem. And they're all for us. They're not for God. The Torah that we learn is for ourselves. The mitzvot that we do is for ourselves. All we do is for ourselves. It's not for Him. He is happy when His children, when His creations are doing His will, because the whole purpose of creating us was for us to get good. But since He has rules for Himself too, which means that He cannot give us good unless we did good as a final judgment. In this world, Hashem has mercy. And He can sometimes give a person good even if the person is bad at this point. But in the eternal world, there is no mercy there. There's just judgment. If you did good, you will get good. If you did bad, you will get bad. Which means that all of the good, all of the mitzvot that a person did, all of that will be rewarded in an eternal world where there's only judgment. Meaning, this is there is no mercy, there's no tshuva, there's no fixing things. Oh, it's let me get another try. None of that stuff. Once a person gets to that final destination,
all of the good that they did, they see how they did all of it for themselves. And all of the sins they did, they unfortunately hurt themselves with it. God stays the same one way or the other. He rewards you because now that you have done what you were supposed to do, you're going to get the reward that you were supposed to. He punishes you because your sins are making him, are restricting him from giving you the good that he wants to give you, because that's why he created you. He's not punishing you because you're hurting him and lessening him in any way. He's punishing you for sins because you are in essence restricting him, because of his own rules, from giving you the good that he created you to give, for the whole purpose is to give you the good. Now you're going to say, okay, so you can just give me the good without me doing good. No, then it would turn the entire Torah into a lie. And he can't give you good and give somebody else bad. That would make the whole Torah a lie. And the signature of God is truth, emet. So the point being is that when we do mitzvot, when we learn Torah, when we are praying, all of those things get us closer to God and also serve God. You serve the King. And the more a person dedicates themselves, the more they're going to feel both a spiritual and a physical connection. The less a person does, the more numb they become to both physical and spiritual connections to God, to the point where they can become a person that doesn't care for God's existence so much that they simply stop believing in him, at least publicly. So it's important for a person to know what is the purpose of the mitzvot. And again, like I said, the mitzvot are for yourself. They're not for God. To say that anything is for God is actually heretical. That's what Manis does. He says that God needs us. That's a heretical statement. That such a statement at the time of the Sanhedrin would bring a person death penalty. Because to say God needs something would mean that God is limited. And the reason why many people want to limit God is because they have such big arrogance that they want to compare God to themselves. They figure since they are limited, certainly God is limited. And unfortunately, you see, the result is that people think, oh, it's so nice that God needs us. I like that kind of God that needs me. I like to be needed. And people, in essence, humanize God, not like a regular human even. They make him into someone that's less than them. These are very sick people. These are spiritually sick people. The fans of Manis Friedman are very, very sick people. Spiritually, some of the sickest people on the planet. You hear some of the garbage they say. It's even worse to a certain extent than what Manis himself says. Horrible, horrible statements. But what can you do? Let's see. Louis asking, a Jew can serve or offer kosher food to a goy if that goy is not going to pray before and after eating? Yeah, sure, he can. The goy is not obligated to pray for food. They should pray, but they're not obligated to pray. Only a Jew is obligated. Charlie, when doing the Amidah during Shachrit, does it have to be completed by midday time or just started by that time? Also about the Shabbat concerning Musaf, please clarify. Okay, so you're supposed, as far as the Amidah, when you see that there is a times that let's say the earliest time to say Amidah or Shema Yisrael, and this is the latest time you can say the Amidah or Shema Yisrael. So that latest time, you have to be already in closer to the middle of the Amidah. Not the beginning and not the end, but closer to the middle of it. Meaning that you're already immersed in the prayer. In the beginning, many times we're not 100% immersed, even though we're supposed to have the most amount of kavanah during the first 3 blessings of Amidah. So much so that I believe it was the Mishnah Berurah that says that if you don't have full kavanah during the first 3 blessings of Amidah, you should do the whole thing all over again. That's how extraordinary it is. But nonetheless, it's it's important to have a kavanah in prayer, but as far as the timing is concerned, it's it's you have to be in the closer to the middle of the Amidah. Now, even if you are not at the middle, you still continue. You don't stop, because if you're gonna pray late, then you say, if this is still on time, then it'll serve as the shachrit or mincha prayer, or whatever it is. And if it's not, then it's going to be a gift prayer. Meaning it's still going to be a valid prayer, but it's going to be a gift prayer. It won't serve for that particular purpose, but it'll be, since you already started, you continue, you don't stop. It'll be a gift prayer. Also, if you can't pray for a reason that is beyond your control, that means you're anus, that means you can make up for that prayer. Let's say if you missed the shachrit prayer for something that's beyond your control, medical reasons, not you were just lazy, like real reasons, legitimate reasons that were beyond your control, you can make up for that lost prayer. In mincha, you do 2 amidahs, one after another. One would make up the amidah for shachrit, one would make the amidah for mincha. The first amidah is for mincha, the prayer that you're on, and the second amidah is to make up, the make-up prayer. But during that time when you do make-up prayers, just think about it in your mind that this is the make-up prayer. If you accept it, this will make up for what I lost. If you don't, then this will be like a gift prayer, like a gift sacrifice. So it's still nonetheless accepted. Now, when it comes to musaf can be said as long as it's daylight. There's no specific time to say musaf. It's as long as there is daylight. That's the general opinion. The first Amidah has limitations and specific times of when you have to say it by. But Musaf can be said later on. Usually what happens if you're in shul, what they do in shul is they pray the first Amidah, then the rabbis typically give like a lecture, half hour, an hour, whatever it is, and then they do the Musaf. So they wait a while between the two. Not because there's really a need to wait between the two, but rather because you have a while, and they try to take advantage of the fact that people are in shul, so they want to give them some Torah in between the prayers. But if you're praying on your own, for example, you could do it right away, or you could do it later. I would recommend always to do it right away and not to try to spread them out too far apart, because you'll end up either forgetting it, and also now you have to figure out a whole new thing of how to complete the blessing, because without the musaf, point is, don't make things overcomplicated, just pray them in order and you'll be fine. But I still taught you what I just said for the sake of knowledge. We need Bezrat Hashem Yeshiva now. Yes, you're right, Michael. We do. Bezrat Hashem, we do. Robert, in regards to the Brit Milah, question. In places like Florida, where it's very hot, is it sufficient to turn off the water heater breaker fuse to take showers on Shabbat? I'm not following. Oh, Mazal Tov. I didn't see the orange things. Mazal Tov on the Brit Milah. Okay, I missed those 2 words. Thank you very much. As far as the taking showers on Shabbat, no. Not allowed to take showers on Shabbat. Not allowed to dip in pool on Shabbat. Not allowed to wash your whole body on Shabbat. You're allowed to wash your arms. You're allowed to wash your face. You're allowed to wash with cold water individual parts if it's absolutely necessary. And you have to be very, very careful not to rip hairs. Long story short, you really should stay away from it, other than just washing your face for hygienic reasons. There's really no reason why a person should really take a shower on Shabbat. But if someone needs to clean something or anything like that, then again, shower is not allowed, bath is not allowed, but you're allowed to wash individual parts with cold water. 0 heat on it. And like I said, that's only parts. Like you're just washing, I don't know, just your arm or 2 arms. That's it. You can't do a whole thing on the body. That's not allowed. Not with cold water, and needless to say, not with hot water. Misha is asking, whatever happened with Moshe's children? There isn't much about what happened to his children lineage, unlike Aaron's. So Moshe Rabbeinu had 2 children. He had Gershon and Eliezer. and some say that initially they were both okay, but some say that one of them became a idolater for a while before I guess he did tshuva, and they didn't amount to be as great as Aaron's children for different reasons, which is a shiur for itself. There was also a promise that Moshe Rabbeinu made to Yitro before Yitro did tshuva, that kind of put like a evil decree on the kids to a certain extent. But that's a complicated sugya that I'll reserve for another day. But one thing that I remember reading years ago is that there was a promise made to Moshe that this kid Eliezer and Gershon will be okay eventually, and Eliezer will bring great light. And Chachamim asked, when did this happen? It happened with Eliezer ben Hokinos. Eliezer ben Hokinos apparently was either a reincarnation or an actual direct lineage to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he taught Torah to such a high level that his face shone like Moshe Rabbeinu's face shone in Mount Sinai. He was the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva. Jose is asking, with all the Lashon Hara, why Tzaraat has not reappeared in the world? Tzaraat might have manifested into another sickness. No, Tzaraat is actually still in the world. It has different forms. There's different types of Tzaraat, first of all. There's also a purely spiritual Tzaraat, which is a pain of the neshama, not a pain of the actual body. May you never know what that feels like. It's worse than any pain you can imagine. It's pretty much there's nothing wrong with your body, but you're in massive pain. And there's nothing you can do about it. It disables you, it debilitates you. It feels like you're on fire. It's something that you could very easily picture Genom looking like this. I could give you more details probably for about 5 hours about this, but the point is that yes, it does exist. There's also a physical tzaraat, and there's actually no cure for it. So the people that have it go to a special hospital. There's one, I believe, in Israel. I think it's in Yerushalayim, where they have these people, and some of them you cannot visit them because it's a incurable sickness and it's extremely contagious. Yeah. But it does exist. It's not to the same capacity as the past, but nonetheless it does exist. Alex, Sammy the Mashiach does not ask for money. Okay, so go to Sammy. Fine. Go to Sammy. Jack, those tenants from hell I told you about, yesterday they left me in the crawl space tons of garbage as well. I don't understand how it's Lashon Hara. If everyone knows that they are hoarders, Rambam said if 3 people know about something, they're allowed to discuss it. Only you can't further the talk. But as well, maybe people should not rent to Chazirim. I'm saving people a headache. You're not saving people a headache. You're creating a headache for yourself. If they're doing something wrong, Hashem will deal with them. Hashem will deal with them. You don't need to publicize it for them. It is Lashon Hara. It is Lashon Hara. If somebody comes to you and let's say they damage your property and you got a Din Torah to confirm that you're right and they're wrong, because remember I told you have to get Din Torah, and the Din Torah confirmed what you're saying, and you either won and they don't want to pay, or you won and they paid, but nonetheless they're not changing, they're not doing tshuva. They continue to do it. You have proof that they continue their behavior. And somebody asks you, should I rent to these people? You could tell them that there's an issue here. these people could damage your property, and to take that into consideration. But to just go out there and publicize to the world that these people did this thing to you, there is no benefit for you to do that. Because you're saying you're saving people a headache, but most people that you're telling it to are not renting them any property. So it's not really relevant to them to know that these people are bad. They're not benefiting out of that material. They're getting hurt. You're hurting those people that you're telling them because they're going to believe you're a lashon hara. You're hurting yourself and you're hurting the people that you're saying it about. And it's not helping anybody. It's not like someone that's about to rent them a house is asking you. If that's the case, then there's an issue. Then there's potentially a more room for you to speak, because if you're saving somebody. But and then again, you have to get Daat Torah for that. You can't just assume that you're okay to speak about and pretty much follow these people for the rest of their lives from house to house, just to see if they ruined houses like they ruined yours. I would recommend just letting it go, because it's just there's nothing good that's going to come out of it. Nothing good. Even if they're bad people, like you're saying, still there's no permission to talk about them, because the people you're talking to them about have no benefit from it. They're not renting them any house. You're not really saving them any headache. It's just that there's a little, sometimes it's pleasurable to say bad things about people, because it's almost like commiserating. You tell people about your troubles, they tell you about their troubles, and people feel better as a result of spilling their guts out. But the problem is that it's a sin, so can't do it. By the way, Chaim Walder only admitted he was cheating on his wife, but said adamantly he never slept with kids and killed himself. What a tragedy. Yeah, I mean, it's a, as far as everything that was said, again, it's the way that they judged it from the beginning was a tragedy, and the way it ended is a tragedy. Okay. David is asking, is it okay to have goals and ambitions in business world in order to serve Hashem more? If so, why is it sometimes difficult to achieve those goals? Is there a reason for it? As far as in business and in Torah, it's not only okay to have goals and ambitions, it's a must. Anyone that wants to succeed in anything in life has to have goals and ambitions. A person who does not have goals and ambitions has already decided they're going to fail. In as far as reaching their full potential. They may succeed to a certain extent, but they will fail reaching their full potential. You have to have goals. You have to have ambitions, because those ambitions, those goals, number one, they help you stay focused. Number two, they're motivating. Number three, they're simply necessary for other people that want to see whether they want to join your journey or not. They need to know where you want to go. What's your vision like? You need to know where you want to go in order to get there. So having goals and ambitions for business is important. Same thing with Torah. You have to have goals. You have to say, okay, I'm going to learn this tractate and I'm going to finish it in X amount of time. And do your best to finish it in X amount of time, because if you just simply have, I'll just read and whenever I finish, I'll finish, it's not good. Why? Because you could very easily fall into the trap thinking that you're learning, but you're learning so slow and so passively and so nonchalantly that you're stuck on the same book for 3 years, even though you should have finished it in 3 weeks. So a lot of times people fool themselves thinking that they're actually studying Torah because they watch a lot of shiurim, and they figure, oh yeah, look, I study 6-10 hours a day because I watch videos. Now, it's good to watch videos if it's a high-end speaker that's telling you the full truth and so on. It's very, very good to listen to videos. But assuming you remember what the video said, assuming you're actually applying that to your life, assuming that if I ask you, what did the video say, you can give me some answers. But the problem is that most people listen to Shiurei Torah, listen to videos in such a superficial manner that if you ask them literally 1 minute after the video is completed, so what the rabbi say? They'll look at you like, I don't know, said Torah. But what did he say? Stuff. What stuff? I don't know, Lashon Hara or something.
That's it. That's 2 hours. You're listening to it. You go, was it good? Well, that was amazing. What was amazing? They don't know. So again, you have to have ambitions in order to run away from that. Where, I'm going to learn these 2 hours. I'm going to learn a Shiur Torah. I'm going to learn a book. Whatever it is they're going to learn, but I'm going to achieve something out of it. I'm going to try to get one new idea, one new thing to apply to my life. It has to have ambition. You have to have a goal. This is very, very necessary. As far as to achieve the goals, it all depends on if you're aligning those goals with where you stand and what and what your capabilities are currently, or what your capabilities will be in the future after you've met a bunch of goals. Meaning, if, let's say, for example, somebody says, I want to be a billionaire. That's a fantastic goal. But if all you have in the bank is $50, that goal is stupid. Nothing more, nothing less. It's stupid. Why? It's a useless goal to say you want to be a billionaire when all you have is a few dollars to buy yourself maybe some ice cream and a sandwich before it. That's all you have. So you have to have, first and foremost, get to that first million. Get to that first. Once you have that first million, then you have, usually you have a way to make more. But until you have that first million, talking about millions and 10 millions and so on is delusional thinking. And hence the reason why many times people fool themselves into thinking that they're going to get to be a billionaire by doing big deals. What do? They simply focus all of their attention on fantasy deals. Oh yeah, I'm going to call my friend. Where's your friend? He's in Egypt. Okay, why is your friend? Why is your friend in Egypt? Oh, he has family there. Okay, so what do you need from your friend? Why are you telling me about your friend? Oh, because my friend, he's connected to some guy in Saudi Arabia, and I think that I can get some oil from Saudi Arabia to my friend that's in Egypt, and I can get it for probably $25 a barrel. I could sell it over here for at least 70. That's what the market is. And I could probably get stuff on credit. And they have all these delusions in their mind of how they're going to make this. And you're going to say to them, oh, I don't think it's possible. No, forget about possible. Look, if I can get $100 million in barrels, all I got to do is just sell it for 1% more, and I already got $1 million. 1% more, I got $1 million. 2%, $2 million. 3%, $4 million. And they start working the calculator of how, if they sell this huge amount of goods for 1% more, 2% less, all these things, they do all these calculations of all this fake money they're going to make. You know what happens in the end? Nothing. Nothing. Why? Because they're too busy chasing a fantasy. If anybody wants to learn how to make money, I know how to make money. I promise you I know how to make money. I've been working since I was 10 years old, made a fortune. Made tons and tons of money in all types of businesses. And I can tell you for sure, all of those people that chased big deals only, generally speaking, never amount to nothing. Guys that go into the real estate business, they say, I'm going to focus on buildings. How about a house? No, forget houses. That's not for me. I'm going to do buildings. He wants to sell a $50, $100, $200 million building. You know what's going to happen with that kid? He's going to find a new job at McDonald's. That's what's going to happen to him. A broker coming into the brokerage business. I want to only deal with clients with $10 million or more. You know what's going to happen with that kid? He's going to work maybe for S&P, making reports for $60,000 a year. He's never going to get anything. Why? Because it's not reality. You know how you make money? Grind. Grind is how you make money. You figure out a way to make a little bit of money every day, just enough to survive and give you time to get these big deals. First and most important is build the grind. That first million is made by the grind. It's not made by the big deals. And generally speaking, the grind is really what makes you the billionaire and the trillionaire and all that other stuff. The big deals, that just takes you another leap. But that type of stuff is something that happens along the way, not for people that focus on big deals. People that focus on big deals never make money. Never. I've never seen it actually work out. I like to say that maybe worked out for somebody, because I don't know, I guess it did, but I've never met anybody. I've met a lot of people in my life. A lot of people that were very, very wealthy. Never met anybody that made those big deals happen. Like I met people that are extremely successful, that they made those deals happen, but that's already after they were successful. But somebody that was like
pretty much just trying to figure out what to do with their life and made these big deals happen, it's always a figment of their imagination. I used to have a kid work for me. He used to chase these deals on his own. Every time he would give me, oh, listen, I got this diamond. It's in Nigeria. It's 167 carats. The guy sent me the report, and he gives me all this papers of this, phantom diamond that's 167 carats, or one time it was like 400 carats, and all these crazy deals that's really worth like $400 million, but you can get it for 10 or 5 or $2 or whatever. It's all fake. Many times it's scams. Other times it's fantasy. Other times that even if you actually have a chance of getting the deal, somebody will steal it from you. It's a fantasy for most people, generally speaking. The rich get richer because they have access to those deals. The people that are trying to make it, if you want to become rich, you have to do grind. To make the grind succeed, you have to make daily goals, monthly goals, annual goals, but not like spend all your day just charting goals all day and to-do lists all day, because then you won't have time to work. But you should have a general plan every single day of what you're going to do. Unfortunately, many times, especially this generation, people just live freely. They have no actual plan. Unless you tell them what to do, they simply do nothing. They're like, I don't know, like a vacuum cleaner. Like, unless you turn the vacuum cleaner on, he doesn't do anything. People have turned into vacuum cleaners. They simply, unless you give them clear instructions, they just sit there like retards and like, what are you doing for a week? Oh, I'm waiting for you to tell me what to do. Wait, so you actually want me to pay you for a week's salary for you doing nothing? What do you mean? What's wrong with it? I was waiting for you. It's your fault. You should have told me what to do. A person like that is a tragedy, but unfortunately many of them. And if you fire every one of them, you're never going to have employees. Why? Because that's the generation we're dealing with. In the previous generation, my generation before me, we didn't need people to tell us what to do. You know what we did? We figured out what to do. We woke up and we figured out stuff to do. That's the generation. The generation today, unless you type a text message telling them exactly what to do, how many times to chew, how many times to swallow, how many times to pick up their hand and say hello, when to this, when to that. Most times they don't know what to do. So you could have an employee on your hands that literally sits in an office, sits in a cubicle, sits wherever they're sitting for a week, 2 weeks, 2 months straight without doing a single thing. And unless you pay attention to them, they're simply just sitting there doing nothing. And they don't think there's anything wrong with it. Why? They figure it's your fault. You should have told them what to do. Should have told them what to do. Why? That's a person that he's an employee for a reason. You know why he's an employee? Because he doesn't make goals. The people that become managers, supervisors, bosses, entrepreneurs, business owners, and so on, those people make stuff happen. They're typically the best employees in the world. Hard to keep. They're a big headache. They're very spoiled, but you have an option. Either you have a rainmaker that's a go-getter that has goals that she herself wants to get better. It's not just because of you. It's not just because she wants to make more money. They just simply want to get better. There's those, and then there's the rest. The rest, generally speaking, have a lot of people that are like vacuum cleaners. They're just, unless you press the button, they're not going to do anything. But you need them too. Why? Because there's a certain price for those people that's usually less than the other guy. They're usually, if you know how to manage, usually you could get them to do a lot of good things that the other guy is not willing to do. So again, everybody has a place. There are sheep, there are shepherds, and so on. But if a person themselves wants to succeed in life, they have to know that they have to grind. Grind meaning every day you have to have a plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to make money today. Forget about the big idea of making $1 billion, zillion, $1 trillion before you have $1. Forget about all that stuff. How am I going to make $100, $200, $500? How am I going to make something? A lot of guys want to make a lot of money quick because they figure that if I make 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, $200,000 quick, then I could flip that 100, and then before you know it, Bill Gates is working for me. I used to think like that too. Then I realized I'm stupid, and I went back to work. And that only took me about an hour or so to figure that out, but other people usually spend maybe 10, 20 years to figure stuff like that out. And they live in this fantasy where they think that they're going to take this money and flip it.
oh, I'm going to buy this and every day I'll make 20% of my money in some penny stock or some Bitcoin or some other nonsense invention, and I'll do that every day, every week. I'll make 20%. Before you know it, they do the calculations. They love playing with calculators. They do the calculations of how this $10 accumulates to becoming $10 trillion. Or people do the calculation. What if you double a penny every day? Rationally speaking, seems like a very simple idea. Reality speaking, you're retarded if you think this is even possible. Why? If you double a penny every single day for 30 days, you now have over $5 million. You're not getting $5 million in 30 days. It's just not happening. Why? Because you can't double your money every day. It's just not possible. If you double your money every 7 years, you're already a success. But people have this imagination because what? What do you mean? Look, I did it for a week straight. I doubled my money. Okay, buddy. Let's see you on day 25. So again, it's important for a person to be realistic. Realistic, not pessimistic, realistic. Realistic also requires optimism. Realistic also requires ambition. Realistic also requires goals. But most importantly, realistic requires a plan. Plan. What's a plan? Not a grand plan of conquering the world. A plan is, what do I do after I wake up? After I pray, after I learn a little bit, after I serve my Creator, what am I going to do? How am I going to get food to eat? How am I going to feed my kids? If I'm single, how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to go, pay rent? How do I do these things? People are very, very lazy, and unfortunately, this creates a major problem in the Torah world when those very same lazy people are introduced to opportunities that are forbidden according to the Torah, like a cash advance business that tells them, listen, you don't need any skills, you don't need any real effort, you don't need really anything other than just pretty much just promising people a bunch of things that you can't deliver on, and we'll pay you commission. You'll be able to make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month without any skills, without anything. Oh, the price for it, your olam haba. But they're not going to tell you that. I am. You see, these types of scams are a perfect tool of the Satan for this generation of lazy, unrealistic, YouTube, TikTok rich people. Where people see the celebrities, they see how they made, $1.5 million making YouTube videos, $10 million making some app, and all types of other strange things. These are delusions. These are not normal things. You cannot compare yourself to a professional athlete. You cannot compare yourself to some guy that has 500 million likes on YouTube or Facebook. These are exceptions. Out of 8 billion people, it's not even 1% of 1% of people are like these people. Don't compare yourself to those people. Compare yourself to the best you can be. And if you do that, you'll have a much better chance of actually succeeding in anything, including becoming one of these really, really, really rich people. But the key is that people try to get to that finish line without the grind, without really working hard. They already want to say, oh, listen, he made it in 10 years, but since I'm learning from him, I can do it in 2 years. Okay, buddy, good luck with that one, but when you wake up out of that dream, let me know. It's not realistic, but unfortunately, people want to think. And that's last but not least, is that when you ask people about their ambitions of money, everybody is convinced they are the next millionaire, trillionaire, billionaire. It's going to be on TV and the whole world's going to know about them and they're going to donate billions. You ask them about, you think you're going to become Gdol Adol? No. You think you'll become a rabbi? No. You think you'll even know the entire Chumash by heart? Chumash by heart? No. Perhaps you'll know the parasha for your bar mitzvah by heart. The whole thing? No ambition whatsoever when it comes to mitzvot. No ambition whatsoever when it comes to Torah. Nothing. But money, everything in the world. In reality, it's supposed to be the opposite. It's supposed to be the opposite. Money is gifted to you by God. Torah you earn. Torah you earn. But that's the thing. A generation of lazy people, both spiritually and physically lazy people, creates such a system where crime becomes standard. So all of these get-rich-quick schemes are running rampant. These fake gurus that sell you a $3,000 course
that they themselves did not even invent and copied from somebody else, they're running rampant. People are buying them like it's free. They're borrowing money from credit cards just to buy some course because they figure if I buy this $3,000 course or this $2,000 worth of diet powder or this $5,000 worth of, I don't know, some seminar full of a bunch of people that are also broke, then I'll be rich. And they take a bunch of loans and they borrow a bunch of money they can't pay back, which is a sin from the Torah. And what ends up happening is nothing. They end up being more broke in a bigger hole than they originally started. Why? Because there is no get rich quick. It doesn't exist. You want to get rich? Grind. You want to succeed? Grind. You want to survive? Grind. They all require the same thing. Why? Because rich is decreed by God. Grind, it's up to you. Whether you're going to do something to grind, that's up to you. But that's the thing. People want to do a lot of things very, very quickly, and that ends up happening where they end up falling trapped to either some type of crime where they end up becoming the criminal, like a cash advance business, or they sell used goods or stolen goods or some type of fraudulent type of business. There's no shortage of fraudulent businesses. They'll go into some investment firm without really caring about the fact that the investments are fake. And really all the money that they're getting from people, including their family, including their friends, is simply lining their own pockets, and they're buying vacations with it, and it's just a big Ponzi scheme. And unfortunately, many of these are happening every single day. There's new ones exposed that are Ponzi schemes of people stealing from their family, stealing from their friends, in the name of success. In the name of success. Or there is people that fall victims to other crimes where they figure that this guy called them out of the blue. Oh, it must be a miracle. Maybe God is sending me this guy that's going to give me the bracha, Rabbi. Well, what is he selling you? He's selling me this scroll that came from Zimbabwe, and this Pikachu and Ukachu. And this scroll really is worth $5 million, but he's giving me a really good deal. How much? $1,500, Rabbi. I'm good, right, at business, Rabbi? I'm good at business, Rabbi. Okay, I'll say Kaddish on you too soon. Hopefully you know how to put your pants on better than you know how to do business. Why? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. But you think that's going to help him? No, he's still going to buy it. He's still going to buy the $1,500 scroll or rock or whatever strange thing that somebody's selling him online because he's an idiot. And he thinks that he's going to be rich by giving this scammer $1,500 from some country he's never heard of. Why? Because he's lazy and he's a criminal. It's a perfect match. And that is, Rabotai, the economic system you have. That's the economic system you have. You want an economic report? You don't need to go to CNBC anymore. You come to the Shiur and you ask me a question like this, and if you get me riled up enough, I'll give you an answer like this. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, Baruch Hashem, and I can promise you everything. If I knew as much Torah as I know about business, how great that would be. All right, Rabotai, it's 2.5 hours already, Baruch Hashem, we're going, and we have to get ready for the next Shiur. Okay, I'll answer two questions. Let's see. All right, Jeremy. Unrelated to this week's parasha, if Eliyahu Navi is the Gilgul of Pinchas, does that make him a Kohen? Okay. Who did Nadav and Avihu come back as? Nadav and Avihu came back as, I don't remember. I have to look at Shal Gilgulim. I don't remember people's reincarnations. There's no nafkamina. Daniel asks, is this lecture alright for Bnei Noach to listen to? If you're listening to it up till now, then the answer is yes. If you're not listening to it up till now, then the answer is yes. David, questions are on Wednesday. Okay, yeah, that's not for me. Okay. So no hide. If I see immodest women pictures on Facebook while searching for a wife, do I do tshuva for seeing immodest women? I don't know why you're looking for a wife on the internet. I mean, it's not usually a good place to find a wife. You don't find wives on the internet. Usually you find wives, referred to you by somebody that you know, or you meet them at work or something like that. Finding a wife on the internet is just as likely as finding millions of dollars laying around in the street.
It's generally not going to happen. The stories of finding wives and husbands on the internet are stories of lust, not love. I don't recommend it. But either way, as far as protecting your eyes is not a formal obligation on the Noahides, but protecting your brit is, meaning that you're not allowed to waste seed. And generally speaking, if you see immodest women, you're eventually going to waste seed. So it may not lead to a sin immediately, but it will lead to a sin eventually, and that's something you want to try to avoid as much as possible. Jonah, what's the purpose of the resurrection of the dead? Isn't the primary reward for being righteous olam haneshamot? Yes and no. There is multiple levels of reward. There is this world, where a person could have the merit to go to heaven, but then there's olam haba. Olam haba and heaven are two different places. But then there's also a separate merit, which is to live at the time of Mashiach and survive. And then there is a merit where you live in this world, get resurrected. The righteous get resurrected. So there's different levels of reward. The final reward is olam haba. The final reward is olam haba, but that's after others, multiple levels of reward come beforehand. One main thing that is going to happen in this physical world is that after Mashiach comes, and there's the war of Gog and Magog, major destruction, annihilation of the enemy, all the heretics, all the atheists, all the idol worshippers, all of the bad people, and anyone who didn't do tshuva. So now after that, there's going to be the days of Mashiach, which is after they bury the bodies of all the dead people. I believe it's going to take 7 years to bury the bodies. The world will start reconstructing itself in a way where you're still going to have certain traditional things function in the world, but there will not be an evil inclination, and the world will continue until the end of the 6,000, meaning until year 7,000. We are now 5782. So you have a little over 1,000 years left in the, but that's only that last part, that last 1,000 years is only for the most righteous people. And during that time, there's going to be a resurrection of the dead. Some people say it's going to be 40 years after Mashiach comes, there'll be a resurrection of the dead. Some say we're not going to know until it happens, but it'll definitely be a resurrection of the dead. Either way, that living in the world at the time of Mashiach for that last 1,000 years is a certain level of reward. That's still this physical world. After that's done, then there is a spiritual world. There's the olam haba, and there's even more than that. Point being is that Hashem's reward has no limitations. Nothing that he does has limitations. Is there a specific area where the BH Yeshiva will be located? Not yet. Once I have an actual location, I'll tell you guys, but I don't know yet. Unfortunately, the campaign that we're running hasn't really succeeded. We didn't even get to the match. We were expecting to raise at least $500,000 or more to at least get to that match of $500,000, but we simply didn't get there. I'm not really sure why, but Kadosh Baruch Hu apparently didn't think we were ready to get it yet, but it's still available for people that want to donate. Okay. Last question, but have the WhatsApp questions paused? If so, when will they resume? No, WhatsApp questions are being answered every single day. It's just that I have hundreds and hundreds of questions every day. Some things are more pressing than others. Some are, less important. Some I don't get to. I try my best. There's literally hundreds of questions. I used to answer also questions on the app. And really my goal is to only answer questions on the app. I don't think it's a realistic goal. It's a theoretical goal because there's certain questions that only a person can, ask and answer. But generally, I would like for questions to go only to the app, but I haven't started yet. There's questions I haven't answered questions in the app in a few months because the questions on WhatsApp are taking so much time. But now the questions on WhatsApp
are even themselves, I'm not able to meet up with the demand because, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people watching the shiurim, a lot of people are asking questions. So I try. Eventually I get to it. Eventually I get to pretty much almost everybody. But sometimes it'll take me 5 minutes to answer a question. Sometimes it'll take me 3 months. Depends. It's nothing intentional. It's just simply when I get there. I just one of our Rosh Yeshivas, Rosh Kollel, Rav Sharvit, he sent me a message 9 days ago. 9 days ago, he sent me a message, and I only answered him today. So it's when I saw the message, I realized I realized he sent it to me a while ago. I didn't know it was almost 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I answered it today. It was a recording, and that's what it is. Anybody that expects me to answer them on demand at all times simply does not watch enough of my lectures and does not watch enough of the work that we do to realize that I promise you I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs doing nothing. I'm very busy, and I'm trying to help a lot of people. There's a enormous amount of questions, issues, problems, cases, a lot of stuff that you guys wouldn't even want to know about in your nightmares that I have to deal with, and there's some things that simply require a lot of time. So, I try to get to it when I get to it. But that's also one of the things that I keep trying to tell people that ask me to call them. I'm not calling anybody. There's no time to answer. It used to be where there was no time to really have decent phone calls. Then there was no time to have phone calls at all. And then it was now it's getting to a point where there's no time to answer even all the messages. It just is what it is. Baruch Hashem. There's a lot of demand, and we try to do our best. And until my children grow up and become much smarter than I am, I have to answer the questions. I have to answer the questions myself. All right, b'chava tzlacha, tizku mitzvot rabot. We'll be in touch. Tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, we should be on the radio somewhere. I'll keep you guys posted. Call to b'chava tzlacha.
אני מברך את הרבנים, רגע. אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל אשר יפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
מיאמי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית.
חזק אותו בשמי.
קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תעבירו לו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.